Chapter 575. Puff. Lin soon coughed up a mouthful of blood. He was heavily injured, and his body was sent flying. The powerhouses in the distance gasped. The third wave was too terrifying. They couldn't imagine how Lin Sun could endure it. After all, if it were them, they would have been killed instantly. I remember when I went through the tribulation, it was almost the same, Yu Shaoxing murmured. A sense of injustice arose in his heart, and he was actually a little jealous, because he knew very well that Lin Sun's tribulation had just begun, and it was already so terrifying. It was conceivable how terrifying Lin Sun's foundation was, and it was definitely far beyond him. Being able to attract tribulation lightning is already a top figure in the Tao insight realm, and the tribulation lightning this guy attracted is rare and boundlessly terrifying. I really can't imagine how he cultivated. Saintess Linlang was also a little lost. He must die. Yu Shaoxing gritted his teeth. Boom. In the sky, the purple-gold lightning was boundless, and it was filled with a destructive aura. It struck Lin Sun ceaselessly, causing him to cough up blood and stagger. His body was covered in wounds, and he was in an extremely miserable state. Kill. But what terrified everyone was that every time Lin Sun was sent flying, he would immediately stand up and take the initiative to face the attack, and he seemed extremely brave and arrogant. His black hair fluttered, and he roared furiously. The potential in his body was stimulated at this moment, and he fought against the tribulation lightning. His cultivation was transforming and rising, and he was about to step into the Tao insight realm. A powerful aura permeated the air, and his blood and qi surged, nourishing and repairing his body. Buzz. His whole body glowed and his whole body crackled. Every time he was sent flying, his broken bones would be reconnected, and his body would be repaired, and the cycle would start again. In the end, the third wave of tribulation lightning was silent, and it disappeared without a trace. The powerhouses who witnessed all this from afar were dumbfounded. He actually passed it just like that? He did pass it, but it wasn't over yet. Lin Sun was acutely aware that his cultivation still hadn't truly stepped into the Tao insight realm, and this made him slightly speechless. It couldn't be helped. His foundation in the sea spirit realm was too strong and complete, so it was extremely difficult for his cultivation to transform and sublimate. Rumble. In the sky, tribulation clouds surged, and it became even more terrifying. One could vaguely see that the color of the tribulation lightning was changing. It became golden, and it transformed into the shapes of swords, and halberds. Thunder Calamity Artifact. Heavens, the legend is actually true. Many experts exclaimed in shock, and their scalps went numb. No one had expected that the fourth wave of tribulation lightning would actually transform into weapons. Exactly how heaven-defying is this kid to be able to incur such a terrifying strike from the heavens to the point of wiping him off the face of the earth? The fourth level, Thunder Retribution Artifact, Yu Shaoxing and Lin Long's faces darkened as they felt suffocated in their hearts. They knew exactly what this meant. Judging from the power of the thunder punishment alone, Lin Sun's foundation was heaven-defying and terrifying. At this moment there was only one thought in their minds. They wished the thunder could kill Lin Sun directly. In the sky, the thunder retribution broke out and turned into thunder sabers, thunder swords, thunder spears, thunder axes, and so on. The scene was like a group of peerless masters wielding the thunder punishment to kill Lin Sun. Kill. At the same time, Lin Sun also exerted his full strength to fight against it. The mystery of the 9 strikes for shaking heaven was completely deduced by him. The scene was very terrifying. It could be clearly seen that Lin Sun was repeatedly defeated. His body was broken and bleeding, and he seemed to be on the verge of collapse. But no one had expected that even so, Lin Sun still persisted tenaciously, and no one dared to believe their own eyes. Boom! The sound of thunder almost pierced through people's eardrums, shattered their souls, shook the world, and even the void was in disorder because the thunder was too terrifying. It was blazing and resplendent, and it filled every inch of space. Lin Sun struggled within, and it seemed that he would be obliterated at any time, which shocked everyone. Even looking at it from a distance, it was so terrifying. It was difficult to imagine what kind of pain and suffering Lin Sun, who was covered by the thunder retribution, was experiencing. Lin Sun's skin and flesh were torn, and his body was scorched black. Blood flowed like a waterfall. However, although he was seriously injured, his momentum was getting stronger and stronger. His chi and blood soared into the sky, and he didn't show a trace of dispiritedness. Instead, he was high-spirited and disdainful as before, and he fought bravely. Many experts were horrified. This human teenager's physique and strength were too terrifying, and it could even be compared with the body of the Herculean ox demon. If it was any other practitioner, they would probably be turned into ashes by the thunder retribution, but he was still fighting until now. In this mountain range, more and more experts were alarmed, and they gathered here. After witnessing this shocking thunder retribution, all of their expressions changed. When did such a freak appear in the human clan? In the eyes of the experts of the Soul Oblivion Sea, the human clan had always been weak and unbearable. They didn't expect that such a freak would appear today, and he was even stronger than the descendants of some clans that were said to be peerless. Open! Lin Sun let out a long roar, and his whole body was steaming with terrifying radiance. It actually blasted away the thunder retribution that covered the sky, and it collapsed. However, he was covered in blood and his face was pale. It was obvious that he couldn't hold on any longer. Even so, it still shocked all the experts present. The fourth level of the thunder retribution instrument was actually passed? Since ancient times, how many geniuses have died under such a great tribulation? How many people would be able to break through this barrier and charge forward? When advancing to the Tao Insight realm, very few people would attract the thunder retribution. Usually, only those with extraordinary talent could attract the thunder retribution to temper themselves. But it was obvious that Lin Sun was special. Not only did he attract the thunder retribution, but he also attracted a shocking great tribulation that was rarely seen since ancient times. This was too rare and terrifying. People couldn't help but be stunned, and they couldn't figure out the mystery behind it. My God! There's still the fifth level of the thunder retribution instrument? Someone exclaimed. He saw that there was still a thunder retribution instrument in the depths of the clouds. Obviously, it wasn't over yet. All of a sudden, all the experts were stunned. They couldn't imagine that such a terrible tribulation would befall when advancing to the Tao Insight realm. Even the Holy Sun Yu Shaoxing and the Saintess Linlang couldn't see through it at this moment. But there was no doubt that since the thunder retribution instrument hadn't ended, it further proved how terrifying this young human was. The more powerful one was, the more ruthless the thunder retribution instrument would be. This was the common understanding of all cultivators since ancient times. What was strange was that the thunder retribution instrument this time was silent. The thunder retribution instrument that poured out was no longer blazing and brilliant. Instead, it showed a kind of gray color, as if it was illusory, ethereal, and frightening. What kind of tribulation was this? Everyone was confused. Even more shocking was that Lin Sun was actually sitting cross-legged in the sky at this moment, and he'd closed his eyes. Soul retribution lightning. Yu Shaoxing spoke word by word, and his expression was filled with surprise and bewilderment. He recognized that this was a type of tribulation that specifically targeted the soul, and it acted directly on the soul. It was shapeless and immaterial, and it was extremely mysterious and terrifying. Once it failed, then it would surely be obliterated without any possibility of survival. So it's this tribulation. A strange expression flashed in the eyes of the Saintess Linlang. She seemed to be slightly moved, and she intended to seize this opportunity to kill Lin Sun. But before she could make a move, an expert had already attacked first. It was a green-colored winged falcon that unfolded its wings and swept up an expanse of dazzling divine rays of light from afar as it attacked Lin Sun. The other experts present here were stunned, and then they came to an understanding. This winged falcon intended to seize this opportunity to kill Lin Sun and seize the fortune he possessed. Instantly, many experts became eager to make a move, and they accumulated strength and waited. But a strange scene occurred. The divine ray of light emitted by the winged falcon hadn't even touched Lin Sun when it was tainted by a wisp of gray and hazy mist, and then it vanished without a trace. At practically the exact same moment, the winged falcon emitted a shrill and miserable cry, and then its body suddenly exploded with a bang. Both its body and spirit were obliterated. This scene instantly shocked everyone present here, and it caused the hearts of those experts that were originally eager to make a move to go cold, and they didn't dare make a move arbitrarily. Isn't this courting death? Who dares interfere under the tribulation lightning? This is an area enveloped by the might of the heavens. Not to mention the soul retribution lightning is extremely mysterious and terrifying, and it acts directly on the soul. Anyone who makes a move at this moment is bound to be obliterated in both body and spirit. Yu Shaoxing sneered. Even though he wished for nothing more than for Lin Sun to be killed, he knew that this wasn't the best time to kill Lin Sun. The Saintess Linlang was covered in cold sweat as well, and she felt a wave of lingering fear in her heart. She wanted to make a move earlier as well, but fortunately she didn't. In the sky, Lin Sun sat cross-legged. His whole body was dyed red with blood, but he seemed to be unaware of it. His face was solemn, and his expression was as calm as an ancient well. He released the power of his soul without any reservation to confront the strange gray and misty thunderbolts. This was a tribulation that specifically targeted at the soul. It would evolve into horrifying attacks, illusions, and the appearance of the sky devil. It was the most vicious and mysterious tribulation. But Lin Sun was as still as a bell at this moment. He ran the meditating magic and deduced the moon from the star circulation. His sea of consciousness became ethereal, and the stars shone upon him. A divine moon began to evolve from an incomplete one, and gradually became complete, flowing with silver moonlight, illuminating his sea of consciousness and soul. His soul was bombarded by the tribulation lightning, and there were layers upon layers of illusions. If it were any other practitioner, he would have already been possessed by the devil, and his soul would have been obliterated. But Lin Sun didn't seem to feel it at this moment. He used the tribulation lightning as a whetstone to temper his soul and comprehend a brand new realm of the meditating magic, the moon. At this moment, besides the transformation of his physique and cultivation, Lin Sun's soul also started to undergo a brand new sublimation in the tribulation lightning. Compared to those experts who were watching from afar, this tribulation lightning seemed to be quiet and ordinary. But so long as one knew the ins and outs of the tribulation lightning, one would know that the more it was like this, the more terrifying it would be. 10 minutes later, Lin Sun, who sat cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes. His deep and calm gaze swept across the surroundings, and all the experts present felt a wave of palpitation in their hearts. It seemed as if his gaze could see through the secrets in their hearts, and it caused their blood to run cold. After that, they noticed that Lin Sun had changed. His temperament seemed as if it had been tempered 1,000 times, and it had lost its edge. He faintly revealed a transcendent aura of returning to simplicity, and he was like the full moon in the clear sky, clear and translucent. He passed another tribulation just like that? All the experts were surprised and bewildered, and they looked as if they'd seen a ghost. Even Yu Shaoxing and Linlang were slightly dizzy. How could this be? That was the God-Slayer tribulation, yet he actually passed it so easily? Chapter 576. In the void, Lin Sun's black eyes were shining like an abyss in the sky. His whole body was filled with surging divine brilliance, and there was a vague aura of Tao lingering in it. Above his head, the dark clouds were rolling like ink, and the destructive aura it released was more and more terrible. The world was silent, and the indescribable oppressive aura filled the eight wilderness, which made all the strong men present stiff. Thunder tribulation, it was not over yet. Is he a human being or a peerless monster? He is just in the Tao insight realm. How could he trigger such a terrible tribulation? This was the thought of all the practitioners. They were puzzled because they had never heard of it before. It was too incredible and terrible. Boom! The sixth thunder tribulation came. The sound was like the sky was falling and the earth was cracking, and the ghosts were crying. The clouds suddenly turned into a dazzling scarlet color, and endless lightning broke out. It was the scarlet thunder tribulation, beyond imagination, with the breath of destruction and death, rolling in the depths of the clouds, shocking the world. Lin Sun let out a long roar. The aura around his body had climbed to the peak that could be reached at present. He had already stepped into the threshold of the Tao insight realm. His body was full of blood and qi, and all his potential was released at this moment. Even in the sea of consciousness, the power of the soul was running to the limit. The soul star was bright, guarding a moon, reflecting the sea of consciousness and bathing the soul. At this moment, Lin Sun felt a kind of unprecedented strength, which was beyond the past, full of disdain and confidence. Boom! A scarlet thunder fell like a dragon, but it was smashed by Lin Sun's punch, and the scattered thunder was dazzling. It was unbelievable. Seeing this scene, the strong men in the distance were so shocked that they almost bit their tongues. Was he still a human being? This was the sixth wave of tribulation lightning, and it was scarlet red in color and boundlessly terrifying. Even if it was some genius at the level of a chosen saint, they would be heavily injured even if they didn't die if they dared to go head-on against it. Yet he was actually so heaven-defying. Rumble! There was another loud noise. The scarlet thunder was dense, one after another, like a scarlet whip lashing the world. But Lin Sun didn't retreat or avoid it. He rushed up and opened his fist. The fist roared and smashed all the thunder, turning it into a rain of light. Everyone's hair stood on end. Monster! This human youth was definitely a monster. Lin Sun had a strong premonition that as long as he survived this round of thunder tribulation, there would be a real qualitative change in his cultivation, soul, and physique. It was like a fish leaping over the dragon gate. After crossing the dragon gate, one could transform into a dragon. At this moment, he released all the potential in his body and used his peak strength to fight against the god's trial of thunder. He pushed his martial arts strength to the extreme. Although Lin Sun was fighting the thunder retribution head-on, he was not careless at all, because the most terrible thunder retribution was yet to come. If he was careless, he would be smashed to pieces, and his body and soul would be destroyed. Because the aura of the tribulation was too intense and terrifying. How can he be so strong? As he continuously collided head-on with it, Lin Sun couldn't help but feel anxious and shocked in his heart. Even he himself had never imagined that this lightning tribulation would be so strange and powerful. Legend has it that in ancient times, only a few innate spiritual embryos born from heaven and earth would face the most terrifying tribulation during their tribulation. And now, Lin Sun also encountered a similar experience. It's getting more and more terrifying. Lin Sun looked up at the tribulation clouds in the sky. Up until now, he felt strenuous and exhausted, and he'd consumed an enormous amount of energy. But the blood-red thunder retribution didn't show the slightest sign of weakening or dispersing, and this caused Lin Sun to sense lethal danger. It seemed as if the innate tribulation this time didn't allow him to take this step at all. Rumble! Suddenly, a blood-red sea of lightning seethed and surged in the depths of the tribulation clouds, and it caused a complete riot like a blood-red ocean that was pouring down. Shit! Lin Sun's expression changed abruptly because danger had arrived. An ancient tablet actually floated up into appearance from within the blood-red lightning, and it was dripping with blood and flowing with lightning while emanating a terrifying fluctuation of destruction. This ancient tablet was actually a thunder retribution. The expressions of the experts that were watching from afar changed indeterminately, and they didn't dare believe their eyes. Bang! The ancient tablet crushed down and struck down fiercely, and it crushed and collapsed the space in front of it. Lin Sun let out a long howl as he attacked with all his strength, and he didn't hold back in the slightest as he collided head-on with it with the intention of shattering it. The thunder retribution erupted, causing the space in that area to be in disorder while a blood-red glow illuminated the heavens and the earth. The ancient tablet possessed an overwhelming strength that could destroy anything, and in merely an instant, it pressed down fiercely onto Lin Sun. Puff! Lin Sun's skin and flesh were lacerated, and he was badly mutilated. Under such a terrifying thunder retribution, he finally couldn't bear it and suffered a heavy injury. The ancient tablet was solid and bright, and it was flowing with blood-red lightning. It was like a power that could suppress and destroy everything, and it struck Lin Sun unceasingly. The scene was so appalling that all the experts almost forgot to breathe. Originally, they came here to seize Lin Sun's good fortune, but they didn't expect that they would witness such a peerless thunder retribution with their own eyes before they could even make a move. An ancient tablet actually condensed in the blood-red thunderstorm. None of them had ever seen such a phenomenon, and it was too strange and frightening. Kill. In the void, although Lin Sun was bombarded and suffered a heavy injury, his eyes became sharper and deeper, and he fought back madly. Moreover, he had already begun to release the last of his strength to break through to the Tao Insight realm. Bang! The ancient tablet seemed to have a spirit, and it continued to suppress Lin Sun, setting off a sky full of blood-red lightning that constantly bombarded Lin Sun. After a while, the ancient tablet finally collapsed and turned into a rain of light, and Lin Sun coughed up a mouthful of blood. Many of his bones were broken, and his face was extremely pale. Did he get through it? When this thought arose in the minds of all the practitioners, they saw a terrible whirlpool in the thunder cloud, rotating crazily. Whoosh! In the twinkling of an eye, the turbulent whirlpool actually swallowed Lin Sun's figure. Suddenly, many people exclaimed, "Thunder whirlpool? What's going on? Did that boy encounter a tribulation? He was drawn into the depths of the thunder cloud. How could he survive?" All the overmatches were shocked and confused. The scene just now happened so suddenly that Lin Sun's figure was swept away before they came to their senses. They all realized that the young man of the human tribe was probably dead. The thunder whirlpool was too terrible. It was like a passage from heaven, and it wanted to obliterate Lin Sun and prevent him from going against the heaven. Is he dead? All the eyes looked up to the sky. To their surprise, the thick thunder cloud didn't disappear. It covered the sky and floated in the sky, and there was still a deafening sound of thunder. All this seemed too strange and unknown. All the people looked at each other and didn't know the result. They could only wait. The depths of the thunder cloud was like a kingdom of thunder. The terrible thunderstorm was surging like an ocean, rising and falling, and it evolved into purple, gold, blood, silver, cyan. It was gorgeous. The destructive atmosphere filled the sky again. From time to time, lightning could be seen transforming into swords, spears, swords, and halberds, flying and whistling. It could also be seen that ancient tablets were condensed one after another, filling the thunder lock, flowing with lightning and releasing an almost world-destroying atmosphere. Boom! Lin Sun didn't have time to think before he started the battle, because as soon as he arrived, he suffered an unprecedented attack. Thunder saber, thunder sword, thunder spear, thunder halberd. It was like a sky full of peerless masters, and at the same time, ancient tablets rushed over to suppress him. In just an instant, Lin Sun's body suffered serious damage. His flesh was badly mutilated, his tendons and bones were broken, and he was about to be obliterated. It was too terrible. Who could imagine that the sixth thunder tribulation could be so strange? Damn it! Am I really not allowed to continue to live? Lin Sun coughed up blood. He was so miserable that it seemed to be a problem to survive, let alone advance. Boom! An ancient tablet pressed down and covered Lin Sun's body. Lin Sun couldn't help but groan in pain. He felt that he was about to collapse. Not only his body, but also his soul was in danger. Son of a bitch! I don't believe that I can't kill you. Lin Sun's eyes were red. Under the fatal threat, he completely ignored everything and swallowed a Lantern King ginseng fruit. In an instant, his injuries all over his body recovered, and he reached an unprecedented peak state. His whole body was shining brightly. This was the magic of the peerless elixir. Just one fruit made Lin Sun recover in an instant from the brink of death. Kill! Lin Sun roared, his black hair flying, fighting against the thunder tribulation all over the sky. Ice dragon steps, 9 strikes of shaking heaven, Tianyuan saber play, negative bump, all the martial power was operated to the extreme. Boom! In the thunder tribulation kingdom, Lin Sun killed alone. Sometimes he was like an ice dragon soaring in the sky, sometimes he performed the fist Tao of shaking heaven, and sometimes he chopped out terrible saber light. He completely forgot everything. All the thoughts in his mind were to defeat the thunder tribulation and survive it. In this process, his control of martial arts was also improved by leaps and bounds. Ice dragon steps became more unpredictable and mysterious, and the power of negative bump became more and more fierce and terrible later. He even displayed the 9 strikes of shaking heaven superimposed by the 8 forces. As soon as the fist was displayed, it had the power to destroy the universe and crush the mountains and rivers. Kill! Lin Sun became braver as he fought. All kinds of subtle meanings about martial arts emerged in his mind. However, the thunder tribulation was extremely terrible, as if it was endless. The ancient tablets were like a forest, suppressing from all directions. The thunder and lightning were like a waterfall, completely submerging this place. Before long, Lin Sun seemed to hear a faint sound of Tao. Then, a blood-colored thunder and lightning turned into a spear, intertwined with the supreme order and law. It was like a spear of judgment representing the majesty of heaven. With a puff, Lin Sun's body was penetrated. Lin Sun felt that his soul was almost annihilated, and his body was collapsing inch by inch. Son of a bitch! Lin Sun roared under the severe pain, and his eyes almost popped out. How could this be? Why, couldn't God tolerate him? In the end, Lin Sun's black eyes flashed a touch of determination. It was obvious that his thunder tribulation was completely different from others. The only thing he could do at present was to fight his way out. This was destined to be the most terrible and dangerous way, but he had no choice. Boom! Lin Sun swallowed another king ginseng fruit and began to burn his body. At this moment, he was no longer angry and anxious, but became unprecedentedly firm and calm. Chapter 577. Kill. This was a battle of life and death. Lin Sun fought alone in the kingdom of thunder retribution. Around him, lightning danced all over the sky, which was a terrible scene. Every piece of his flesh and blood was healing at full speed. His strength was restored to the peak, and it was still advancing. Clang! The broken blade came out of its sheath and made a clear sound, filled with the Tao of water. Lin Sun performed the RFS and the moon-reaching move of Tianyuan saber play to the extreme. Wherever the broken blade passed, it seemed that stars were falling one after another. The terrible breath of destruction filled the air and crushed the rolling thunder. After that, a divine moon slowly rose into the sky. Its radiance suffused the surroundings, and it was boundlessly pure and holy. The nearby lightning hadn't even approached it before it was completely obliterated. In terms of power, the RFS and the moon-reaching move were obviously different from before. They were branded with the Tao of Water. When Lin Sun performed them with full strength, their power also changed dramatically. Such an attack could even easily kill a Tao Insight Realm cultivator. Moreover, in the process of the battle, Lin Sun experienced the tempering and baptism of thunder, so he had a deeper understanding of these two moves. The power he displayed with every movement could be said to be earth-shattering. Burning Sun style. In the battle, Lin Sun suddenly roared, and the broken blade, overflowing with dazzling and brilliant light, suddenly slashed out. Under the slash, there seemed to be a blazing sun, burning fiercely, releasing the power to destroy the world. It was extremely bright and dazzling, brilliant and boundless. This was the third move of Tianyuan's saberplay, Burning Sun. In the past, Lin Sun had been comprehending the meaning of this move. But because it was too difficult and complicated, it was difficult for Lin Sun to perform it, although he had some understanding. However, at this moment, under the fatal threat of the thunder retribution, Lin Sun burst out unprecedented potential and performed this move for the first time. In an instant, like a blazing sun burning and exploding, the nearby thunder retribution was burned up. Even Lin Sun was surprised by this amazing power. It was too strong. It was more terrible than the RFS and the moon-reaching move. It was a kind of peerless and overbearing breath of destruction, as if it could destroy and burn everything. Rumble. But in next to no time, the tribulation lightning surged into appearance once more, and it seemed as if it had been infuriated, causing its impetus to become even more terrifying than before. A myriad of ancient tablets appeared in a dense mass, and they seemed as if they were formed from the order of the lightning Tao. They flowed with dazzling lightning, and merely their auras were capable of causing others to be on the verge of collapse. Kill! Lin Sun roared angrily. His blood was boiling. He had already persisted to the last step. How could he be stopped here? He fought bravely, and every time he suffered a heavy injury, he would swallow a Lantern King ginseng fruit. He never gave up. This was bound to be a life-and-death battle, and it seemed to be dangerous and difficult. If it was any other cultivator, even if it was an extraordinary genius, the cultivator would probably be unable to persist a long time ago. In reality, if it wasn't for the Lantern King ginseng, even Lin Sun wouldn't have been able to hold on until now. That lightning tribulation was too strange and abnormal. It wanted to kill him and didn't allow him to cross it. Boom! After an unknown period of time, the densely packed ancient tablets in the Thunder Tribulation Kingdom no longer appeared. They all began to blur and turned back into the form of lightning. Crack! At the same time, a shackle in Lin Sun's body seemed to be broken, allowing his cultivation to enter a whole new realm in an instant. He broke through. A black hole was forming within his sea of qi, and it was chaotic within it. It seemed like an abode of the void, yet it also seemed like the embryonic form of a world. Pure and brilliant spirit energy flowed within it, and it was boundlessly vast. At this moment, Lin Sun's Water Tao aura, martial Tao energy, and cultivation source were all gathered within the chaotic whole. The chaotic whole rumbled ceaselessly, and it overflowed with a lustrous light. The aura of Tao aura and martial Tao energy were branded on it, causing the entire chaotic whole to expand ceaselessly. It was divine and magnificent to the extreme. Vaguely, there were even strands of the sound of nature resounding from within the chaotic whole, and it seemed as if ancient sages were sitting cross-legged within it and chanting scriptures. Rumble! In the end, a mysterious platform emerged from within the chaotic whole. It was clear like glass, and it was suffused with 3 strands of pure and holy mist. It was extremely mysterious. Heavenly Tao Platform. This was the platform that only those with extraordinary talent could build with their own Tao foundation, and it was the embodiment of the extreme sublimation of one's cultivation. It should be known that ordinary Tao Insight Realm powerhouses could only condense their cultivation into a platform when they reached the consummation of Tao Insight, in order to consolidate and refine one's own foundation. But obviously Lin Sun was very different. He had successfully condensed and developed a platform at the initial stage of Tao Insight, which was destined to be an extraordinary path. For example, the reason why Yu Shaoxing and Lin Lang could be selected as the son and daughter of Saint was that when they advanced to the Tao Insight realm, they were far superior to their peers, and they were the first to build the platform of self. Sitting in the Tao Insight represented a kind of transcendent foundation and potential. However, Lin Sun was different from Yu Shaoxing and Lin Lang. On his Tao Insight platform, there were 3 strands of pure and holy white jade light, which were lustrous and divine. This was the heavenly treasure light. Even in the primordial times, very few people were able to accomplish this, because this represented that one's foundation had been tempered to the extreme, and it represented the highest attainments in this realm. As the saying goes, Tao begets 1, 1 begets 2, 2 begets 3, and 3 begets all things. The heavenly abode Tao platform represented one's own cultivation, the primordial essence, or One. The 3 beams of heavenly abode light corresponded with it, elaborating on the wonders of the 3 that gave birth to all things. They resonated with the great Tao, faintly conforming to some sort of mystery. All of this was destined to be the embodiment of the strongest Tao. Lin Sun had a lot of enlightenment in his heart. The chaotic void was called Tao Insight, and it was branded with the cultivation of one's whole life. It was the foundation of one's Tao, and it gathered the original power of the Great Way, Enlightenment Method, Martial Way, and so on. All this power built the Tao Insight platform, which was the embodiment of one's own cultivation. The stronger the Tao Insight platform, the stronger the Tao Insight platform, and the stronger the power that could be used. And the heavenly treasure light was a kind of extraordinary embodiment, which indicated that one's Tao Insight path had reached the extreme, and belonged to one of the strongest Tao paths in the world. This is the sublimation after the extreme perfection. As soon as I set foot in the Tao Insight realm, I already have a Tao foundation that others can't match. If there is no continuous accumulation and suppression in the past, I'm afraid I can't have such achievements. Lin Sun seemed to be lost in thought. At this moment, he had become a great practitioner in the Tao Insight realm. His blood and qi were boiling rhythmically like lava, and his bones were crackling. He was constantly reorganizing and transforming. This was the brand new change after the breakthrough. It was like breaking through a life barrier and realizing a transformation. The original strong foundation and potential had all turned into the driving force of transformation at this moment. In an instant, all the injuries Lin Sun had suffered before were healed. His whole body was suffused with divine brilliance and lingering Tao aura. A wisp of blood and qi rushed out from the top of his head like smoke, broke through the clouds, and went straight to the sea of thunder retribution. This scene was extremely shocking. His heavily injured and broken body had all transformed like a phoenix being reborn, making every bone in his body holy and crystal clear and steaming with a precious light. On the other hand, his flesh and skin were translucent and crystalline as if they were polished from white jade, and they flowed with copious and irresistible vitality and terrifying energy. As for his divine soul, it had also become more and more powerful. Stars were circulating in his sea of consciousness, and the divine moon was in the sky. Starlight and moonlight were everywhere, which was magnificent. This was the Tao Insight realm. Now that Lin Sun had established himself in this realm, he could spy on the mysteries of the great Tao and absorb the essence of the world. Although he was just in the initial stage of Tao Insight realm, Lin Sun had a kind of invincible belief at this moment. At this moment, he was as bright as jade. Although his clothes were stained with blood, he had his own disdainful demeanor. In the past, he had been suppressed several times. But now he survived the thunder retribution and stepped into the Tao Insight realm, which made Lin Sun's cultivation completely erupt like a volcano that had been suppressed for a long time. This kind of supreme foundation after extreme sublimation was destined to shock the world. Boom. However, what Lin Sun didn't expect was that the originally silent thunder retribution suddenly broke out at this moment. The sky fell and the earth cracked, and the momentum was more terrible than before. A chain formed by thunder retribution swept out, intertwined with the supreme aura of order and law, and penetrated the void. Lin Sun was stiff all over. Before he could react, he was hit by the thunder retribution chain, and his skin and flesh were torn. Even so, he was seriously injured, and the newly condensed Tao insight in his body was almost destroyed. Puff! His figure fell directly from the sky. It was so miserable. How could he expect that he had passed the thunder retribution, but in the end, there would suddenly be such a terrible blow? If he hadn't reached the Tao Insight realm, the power he possessed had long been incomparable to that of the past. This blow alone could definitely wipe him out of the world easily. Pain. His body was badly mutilated by the terrible destructive power, which made Lin Sun angry and helpless. He could only watch himself fall. Fortunately, after this blow, the thunder retribution seemed to have exhausted all its power, became dim and blurred, and began to dissipate. In the nearby area, it had been a full hour since Lin Sun was drawn into the depths of the thunder retribution cloud. During this time, a group of strongmen was shocked and doubtful. The thunder roared in the depths of the thunder retribution cloud, and its power never dissipated. This made them realize that Lin Sun was very likely to be still struggling. Because of this, they all felt a kind of indescribable horror. If any of them went in, they would definitely die. But at this time, the young man of the human clan had not been killed, which was too horrible and simply against the natural order. At this time, they saw that in the depths of the thunder retribution cloud, Lin Sun's figure staggered down like a broken sandbag. His body was badly mutilated, his skin was scorched, and he coughed up blood. Obviously, he was seriously injured and dying. But when they realized that he was still alive, there was an uproar and a complete sensation among the strongmen present. He didn't die. This guy didn't die until the end, and he came out of the depths of the thunder retribution cloud alive. This was like a miracle which shocked all the strongmen speechless. They couldn't imagine how Lin Sun fought against such horrible and strange thunder retribution and how he survived. It was too incredible. Chapter 578. A human teenager triggered a peerless thunder tribulation when he was advancing to the Tao Insight realm, which was rare and terrifying. This was already surprising and shocking, but when they saw Lin Sun survive the thunder tribulation, they felt it was even more incredible. Who on earth was this guy? When did such a monster appear in the human clan? All the overmatches were shocked speechless. Whoosh! However, in this silence, a figure suddenly rushed out like lightning towards Lin Sun in the distance. This scene was so abrupt that all the overmatches were stunned. Immediately, they realized that although the human teenager survived the thunder tribulation, he was seriously injured and dying. Now was the best time to kill him. At the thought that the human teenager still had the great fortune from the sacred island of 5 elements, the overmatches in this area couldn't bear it any longer. The guy from the Wind Falcon tribe is really cunning. He should be the first one to attack. Humph, so what? There are so many competitors in this area. How can they let the Wind Falcon tribe take away the fortune? Kill. We must kill the human teenager while he is seriously injured. Otherwise, when he recovers, he will definitely be a formidable enemy. Loud shouts sounded one after another, breaking the shocking atmosphere in this area. All the overmatches were flying at full speed to where Lin Sun was. They were all overmatches from various clans in the Soul Oblivion Sea, belonging to the ancient remnant forces. Those who could enter the secret realm of Demon Saint were all masters. Today they acted together for two reasons. One was to fight for Lin Sun's good fortune, and the other was to take this opportunity to kill Lin Sun. After all, Lin Sun's performance in the Thunder Tribulation was so amazing that they felt deeply threatened. For a time, this mountain range was filled with streaks of light that were dazzling and resplendent. They shot out from all directions in a dense mass, and they were like dense divine rays of light. Green Scale Clan, Demonic Elephant Clan, Sea Spirit Clan, Limu Clan. Damn it! Why are there so many competitors? But the appearance of the overmatches from different clans caused an uproar in the field. They didn't expect that a human teenager would attract so many competitors. This shocked many practitioners. They realized that in order to fight for the fortune of Lin Sun, there was bound to be a storm of blood. Lin Sun was bleeding all over and his body was scorched black. Lying on the ground, he felt a kind of relief after surviving a disaster, but also a kind of hatred for being plotted against. He'd never imagined that he would actually suffer a lethal blow at the last moment before the tribulation lightning was about to end. It was as if the heavenly tribulation was deliberately targeting him, wanting to catch him off guard and kill him. Suddenly, Lin Sun noticed that there was a piece of gray chain left in the Tao platform in his body. It was wrapped around the Tao platform and emitted a terrible aura of order and law, which was constantly eroding the Tao platform. The power of the heavenly tribulation. Lin Sun's face suddenly changed. He didn't expect that although the thunder retribution had disappeared, there was still a part of the power of heaven's retribution remaining in his body. This was tantamount to burying a source of disaster within one's body, and the slightest carelessness could lead to an unpredictable disaster. After all, the Tao platform of the heavenly abode was established from the foundation of the great Tao, and it contained the essence of Lin Sun's cultivation. Yet now, it was being bound by the chains of the heavenly tribulation and being corroded. This was equivalent to destroying the foundation of his cultivation. Damn it! Lin Sun looked up at the sky and gnashed his teeth with hatred. He increasingly felt that this heavenly tribulation was full of mysteries, as if it was deliberately targeting him. But soon, Lin Sun had no time to think about it. He sensed danger and suddenly got up. Not far away, he saw a figure rushing towards him. The figure was as fast as a ghost. Looking carefully, it was a winged falcon with cyan wings, sharp claws like blades, and an extremely strong aura. At the same time, Lin Sun also saw dense escape lights rushing out of the mountains in all directions, and they were sweeping towards this place in an overwhelming manner. They were the overmatches from all races. Was it because he made too much noise during the heavenly tribulation that led to this scene in front of him? Lin Sun's black eyes narrowed. "Young man, leave the Tao scripture of the sage, and I'll spare your life." The overmatch of the Wind Falcon tribe had already rushed over. Although he said so, his actions were not polite at all. His wings set off a piece of cyan light, steaming with Tao aura, and rushed towards Lin Sun. In his eyes, Lin Sun had just finished the heavenly tribulation and was seriously injured and dying. It was undoubtedly the best time to kill Lin Sun and seize his treasures. Therefore, as soon as he made his move, he showed no mercy at all. "Get lost! How dare you Wind Falcon tribe come here to compete for the good fortune?" However, before Lin Sun could make a move, a ferocious green Kirin beast rushed over with a smelly smell and slapped the overmatch of the Wind Falcon tribe away. Immediately, a group of overmatches of the Green Kirin clan appeared with a roar that shook the sky. With a monstrous murderous aura, the void was in disorder, and the leaves in the forest were dancing wildly. At this time, many overmatches who had arrived were shocked and hurried to dodge. But there were also many tribes who came to kill aggressively, not afraid of the Green Kirin clan at all. There was the Devil Elephant tribe, which was as big as a mountain and had a ferocious face. He stomped on the ground and smashed down the low mountains. There was also the Sea Spirit tribe, whose skin was glowing with blue water. They were very aloof, like human beings, but they had blue eyes and long golden hair. At the same time, there were also the Red Flame tribe, the Blackwood tribe, the Water Ape tribe, and other forces. All of them had gathered in groups, which was a spectacular scene. What a big battle array! Lin Sun stood there with his black hair fluttering. Although his clothes were stained with blood, he had a disdainful momentum at this moment. His black eyes were deep and cold like the abyss. Clouds moved in all directions and countless overmatches gathered, surrounding this area. The situation suddenly became tense. Human boy, hand over the good fortune you got from the sacred island of 5 elements. An overmatch shouted. Why? Lin Sun asked expressionlessly. The overmatches sneered. In their opinion, Lin Sun's question was too childish and ridiculous. Why? Of course, it was because of his strength. A seriously injured and dying young human boy was just a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. He was vulnerable and posed no threat at all. Get lost. Suddenly, an overmatch of the Green Kirin clan roared, releasing a terrifying aura that shook the wind and clouds. His eyes were bloodthirsty and terrifying. He stared at Lin Sun. Little guy, hand over the good fortune you got, and I can let you die with dignity. Green Kirin clan, do you think we don't exist? Do you want to eat it alone? Have you asked for our permission? An overmatch of the other clans said coldly with an unkind expression. Ho ho, do you want to fight? The overmatches of the clans confronted each other. In order to fight for the good fortune, they threatened each other and revealed their killing intent. They didn't give in. Everyone, why don't we kill this lad first, and then discuss the problem of fighting for the good fortune? An overmatch suggested, which was quickly echoed by others. They thought that they couldn't give Lin Sun a chance to breathe, and they should eliminate him as soon as possible to avoid any accident. Shut up. What qualifications do you have to fight with us? Get lost. Otherwise, don't blame us for killing all of you. The overmatch of the Green Kirin clan roared, glancing at the crowd with a murderous look. Lin Sun stood there alone, listening to the arguments and threats of these overmatches. He had an indescribable sense of absurdity in his heart. What did they think he was? A prey that could be divided at will? Lin Sun's heart burst with killing intent. He understood that these guys not only came to kill him, but also to take away his treasures. Everyone, continue to talk. I'll leave first. When you come to a conclusion, you can come to me. Lin Sun couldn't help but speak. In an instant, the world quieted down. The eyes of all the experts present all looked at Lin Sun with a look of surprise. It seemed that they didn't expect that the prey still dared to provoke them at this time. Boy, you're really arrogant. Get over here and die. An overmatch of the Green Kirin clan shouted. Do you only know how to shoot your mouth off? Why don't you just call yourselves the Verbal Clan? Lin Sun frowned. The Verbal Clan, all the overmatches looked strange. Wasn't this young man afraid of death? He was already a piece of meat on the chopping board, but he still dared to be so unscrupulous. You're courting death. The overmatch of the Green Kirin clan was furious. With a roar, he slapped out with his palm, and a millstone-like palm print appeared. It was full of green tau rime, which was enough to smash a mountain. This was an older overmatch with strong combat power. Many overmatches were frightened and had to retreat. They didn't dare to stand here in case they were affected. However, something unexpected happened. Lin Sun didn't move. He casually punched and collided with the overmatch. In the process, an unparalleled and terrifying force rushed out of Lin Sun's fist. It was full of destructive breath and directly drowned the overmatch of the Green Kirin clan. The void collapsed, and it was like breaking dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. It was just a blow, but it surprised all the overmatches present. What kind of fist energy was this? The power was so terrible that it covered the opponent in an instant. Boom! With a violent roar, the overmatch of the Green Kirin clan screamed, and then his body exploded. Blood rained like a waterfall, dyeing the void red. It was sad and terrible. Oh my God, wasn't he seriously injured and dying? How could he still have such combat power? All the overmatches were shocked. One punch smashed an old Tao Insight Realm overmatch. Who could imagine? Your strength is so weak. You really only know how to shoot your mouth off. Lin Sun's expression showed a touch of contempt. All of a sudden, the overmatches of the Green Kirin clan nearby were all furious. They immediately rushed up and used their strongest means to kill Lin Sun. This human teenager was so abominable that he insulted them as the Verbal Clan. They must kill him to wash away the shame. The power of a group of overmatches was naturally full of power. The void was vast and mighty, and the stones were flying through the air, rumbling. Although the Green Kirin clan was arrogant and domineering, they all used their full strength when they really fought. Boom! Lin Sun's eyes burst with cold, killing intent, which was extremely frightening. At the same time, he also attacked without any hesitation. Although there were enemies in all directions, he was not afraid. This was a kind of invincible faith and style. Similarly, this was also his first battle after advancing to the Tao Insight Realm. He urgently needed some opponents to prove to what extent his combat power had reached. Chapter 579. Boom! Lin Sun took a step forward and performed the 9 strikes for shaking heaven. The dazzling fist power and dense Taoism poured out, forming a terrible vision of the collapse of mountains and rivers and the collapse of the sky and the collapse of the earth. The 4 strongmen of the Green Unicorn clan who rushed to the front all screamed in horror and confusion. Their chests were smashed, their internal organs burst, and their blood was dripping. This made people desperate and frightened. The battle had just begun, but 4 strongmen had been destroyed. Moo! At the same time, under Lin Sun's feet, a huge shadow of ice dragon emerged. It was snow-white and icy. It raised its head and roared, hovering in the void, and its cold eyes were ruthless, overlooking everyone. Boom! The ice dragon rushed up, causing the void to burst, the earth to crack, and some nearby strongmen were defeated. They were scared out of their wits and turned around to flee. Unfortunately, it was too late. The ice dragon roared in the void, and with a flick of its tail, more than a dozen strongmen were swept by it. Their bodies burst like paper paste, and they died on the spot. This was Ice Dragon Steps, a kind of mysterious body movement but also a kind of unique skill. When practiced to the extreme, the ice dragon would come out with a step, and it could suppress the enemies in all directions and not allow the foreign enemies to invade. After experiencing the baptism of life and death in the Thunder Test, Lin Sun had already deduced the mystery of Ice Dragon Steps to the extreme. As soon as it was performed, it immediately burst out with amazing power. Come on, let's kill him together. Kill! Take away the good fortune of this boy. Many strongmen shouted. This time, they were really enemies in all directions. All the strongmen of various clans in the surroundings moved, and their figures flickered as they attacked from all directions. For a time, the world was filled with treasure light, spiritual weapons were flying around, and terrible rays of light crisscrossed and spread like a tide. The scene was terrible. It should be noted that the strongmen of various clans present at least had the cultivation of Tao Insight Realm, and there were also some young talents and some veteran strongmen among them. Now, they moved out together to besiege Lin Sun. It could be imagined how shocking the scene was. The world lost its color, the wind and clouds changed, and the destructive aura raged, opening the curtain of a shocking battle. Whether it was to kill Lin Sun or to take away his good fortune, the experts of all clans didn't hold back. They were murderous and mighty. If it was any other ordinary existence in the Grotto Heaven realm, they would have been scared out of their wits at the first moment. After all, he was alone. Facing the siege of so many experts was enough to make anyone feel fear and despair. But Lin Sun was a special case. He didn't run away. Instead, he took the initiative to fight. Boom! His entire body surged with divine radiance, while strands of the aura of the Tao coiled around him like divine radiance. He held a broken blade in his hand, and he was like an immortal of the blade that was arrogant, otherworldly, and peerless. The ice drake steps, which had been performed to the extreme, made his figure seem illusory. It was inconceivably fast as he repeatedly flickered and shifted. Every time it flickered, it would definitely cause a bloody scene. Blood rained down on the battlefield, and one expert after another was killed on the spot before they could even react. Some had their stomachs split open, some had their necks severed, and some had their bodies crushed. The scene was horrifying and bloody. These experts of all clans came for Lin Sun, so he showed no mercy and killed all the way. He pushed his martial power to the extreme and broke through and flattened the mountains. Between heaven and earth, the bloody mist lingered, and the sound of killing shook the sky. Although he was alone, he was like a tiger in a pack of wolves, setting off a bloody storm. Didn't he suffer from the thunder test and was seriously injured and dying? Why is he still so terrible? As the battle continued, there began to be cries of unwillingness and fear in the field. Indeed, Lin Sun's strength and fierceness completely exceeded all their expectations. They thought he was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Who would have thought that he had become a young devil in the blink of an eye? It should be known that he had just reached the Grotto Heaven realm. Under the siege of a group of strong people, he not only did not lose, but also killed all the way with irresistible force. How could it not be shocking? Looking at the whole world, who could do this? Even if the holy sons and holy maidens of the various races were to come, it would be difficult for them to withstand their sharpness. Kill. If we don't get rid of this man, he is destined to become a big trouble in the future. Some strong people roared and realized the problem. Lin Sun was seriously injured, but he still had such incredible fighting power. If he recovered to his peak state, how terrible would he be? The killing continued, and the world was turbulent. The thick blood and screams mixed together, like a picture of purgatory. Boom! Finally, a tyrannical figure took out a big ancient seal, which emitted golden light and pressed down fiercely. The big seal was obviously a secret treasure, and its power was earth-shattering. As soon as it appeared, it produced a strange scene of ghosts crying and wolves howling, and blood raining. Kill Devil Ancient Seal. The ancestral sacred treasure of the Li Mu clan. Many strong people recognized it, but what made them disappointed was that the young man didn't dodge at all. With a single blow of the broken sword, the Kill Devil Ancient Seal was knocked away and wailed incessantly. There was no doubt that the broken sword was a secret treasure not weaker than the Kill Devil Ancient Seal. Otherwise, how could it be defeated so easily? Realizing this, many strong people were horrified. This young man didn't just have a heaven-defying fighting power, even the treasure in his hand was an incredible secret treasure. Lin Sun turned a deaf ear to all this. His expression was calm, and his whole body was like a sun burning fiercely and shining brightly. He was using this battle to comprehend the power of the Tao Insight realm, and he was deducing and examining his own strength to consolidate and refine his strength. After all, the Tao Insight realm was a completely new realm, and even Lin Sun needed to adapt and control this new strength again. Kill. The Tao Insight realm in Lin Sun's body roared, and the blood and qi in his whole body surged like a dragon. Every move he made released extraordinary power, and he was like a banished immortal, holding a broken sword and killing in all directions. This was the path of extreme sublimation, and it was one of the strongest paths since ancient times. It was extremely rare, and it was hard to find in the world. Since ancient times, no one knew how many amazing geniuses had been born, but only a small group of people could set foot on this strongest path. Most of the other strong people couldn't see this path. But as long as they set foot on this path, they were destined to be different from the rest of the world. This was the true path of a peerless genius. Under such a path, the other so-called geniuses were destined to be overshadowed. absolute. With these two words, one could be called the king of the same generation, and it was the supreme power of the Great Way. The battle continued and became more and more intense. Within 100 miles, mountains were flattened one after another, and ancient forests were destroyed one after another. The earth was cracked and the void was chaotic. Blood dyed the earth and the void red, and screams and shouts filled every inch of the place. Smoke filled the air and the blood was shocking. When he was in the Sea of Souls realm, he already had the power to fight against me. Now, he survived the peerless thunder tribulation and stepped into the grotto heaven realm. In the demon saint's secret realm, how many people can fight against him? Far away from the battlefield, Saintess Linlang was bitter. It is indeed a little troublesome. No, it is very troublesome. This young human should be the supreme master mentioned in the ancient legends. He is invincible in the same realm, like a king who can suppress all enemies. If he is allowed to live, his future path is destined to be above all other geniuses. Yu Xiaoxing's face was extremely gloomy. He had read some ancient books and knew some secrets, so he could vaguely guess what kind of potential Lin Sun had now. This made him feel cold and fearful. He and Saintess Linlang did not participate in the distant battle out of caution. They did not want to expose their identities too quickly. But after witnessing Lin Sun's divine power in the battle, the two could not help but feel lucky that they did not participate rashly. Otherwise, even they could not be sure that they could kill Lin Sun. However, apart from feeling lucky, both of them felt extremely heavy. As geniuses, they were originally the holy sons and saintesses of their respective clans, and it was difficult for them to meet an opponent of the same realm. But compared to Lin Sun, both of them felt a heavy pressure and fear. I have to improve myself as soon as possible. Coincidentally, both of them made the same decision. Lin Sun's rise made them feel a sense of urgency, and they could not tolerate Lin Sun standing out on the Great Way. In reality, like the two of them, there were many strong cultivators hidden in the dark who had not participated yet. They were all the top figures of their clans. It was not that they were afraid, but out of a kind of dignity. They did not want to compete with other strong cultivators, so as not to bring shame to themselves. However, when they saw Lin Sun's peerless power, they were secretly shocked and felt threatened. Suddenly, Yu Xiaoxing sensed something and his eyes brightened. That kid seems to be unable to hold on much longer. At the same time, Saintess Linlang and other top figures hidden in the dark also looked towards the battlefield. They saw that Lin Sun, who was originally divine, suddenly began to cough up blood. His brows were tightly furrowed and his face was pale. Cracks appeared on his body, and his injuries were extremely serious. This also affected his battle, causing him to be in a perilous situation. After such a sudden scene happened, all the strong cultivators were a little surprised, and then they were overjoyed. This guy had been seriously injured in the thunder trial, and now he was finally unable to hold on any longer. Lin Sun's performance just now was too fierce and disdainful, and it almost made them feel despair. Who would have thought that such a change would occur under the twists and turns of the mountain road? Ha ha ha! Some of the strong cultivators could not help but laugh, and the cultivators of other clans also heaved a sigh of relief. Then, they gritted their teeth and rushed towards Lin Sun madly, wanting to take advantage of this opportunity to kill him. It's time for us to act. In the distance, Yu Xiaoxing's eyes were cold and gloomy, and murderous intent lingered. Let's go. Saintess Linlang took out her blood-colored bell and floated out. Almost at the same time, some of the top figures hidden in the dark also realized that the real opportunity had come, and so they began to act without hesitation. In the battlefield, Lin Sun leaped up, displayed the ice dragon steps, and turned to leave. Like a dreamy ghost, his speed was unbelievably fast, and he fled into the distance. This scene fell into the eyes of the strong cultivators, and it further proved that Lin Sun could not hold on any longer, and had to flee. Chapter 580. Only Lin Sun himself knew that it was not because his injury was too serious, but because a part of the divine punishment chain wrapped around the Tao platform of the grotto heaven in his body suddenly began to attack in the battle. The terrible power of divine punishment kept eroding his grotto heaven Tao platform. This change was so sudden that Lin Sun was also affected by it. He had to start running away, not daring to continue fighting. Go after him! How could the masters of all races give up such an opportunity? Lin Sun was about to collapse, so it was a good time to kill him. At the same time, peerless figures like Yu Shaoxing and Lin Lang also followed Lin Sun's trail. Lin Sun was silent all the way, which was rare for him. This time, the divine punishment was not as simple as he had imagined. It was full of too many strange and terrible things. At least he had never heard of any practitioner in the world who, like him, attracted 6 stages of divine punishment, each more terrible than the last. In the end, he was even drawn into the depths of the divine punishment cloud and fought against the divine punishment thunder. The strangest thing was that when the divine punishment thunder dissipated, there was still a divine punishment chain wrapped around his grotto heaven Tao platform, constantly eroding and destroying the foundation of his Tao. Why? Lin Sun's heart was a little heavy. In the fierce battle just now, if the power of divine punishment didn't suddenly burst out and obliterate his Tao platform, how could he be so embarrassed and have to run for his life? Even at this time, the condition of his body was not optimistic. On the grotto heaven Tao platform, a piece of gray chain constantly tightened and bound the platform, releasing the supreme power of order and law, constantly eroding it, making the platform tremble violently and become unstable. This was a sign of shaking the foundation of Tao. Once the Tao platform was damaged, Lin Sun's cultivation would be seriously affected. I must find a place to get rid of this disaster in my body. Lin Sun gritted his teeth. His Tao platform was constantly eroded, which affected him and made him cough up blood. Whoosh! Using the ice dragon steps to the extreme, Lin Sun shuttled through the ancient mountains and forests like an illusory shadow. Along the way, he relied on his powerful divine soul to avoid wave after wave of terrifying fluctuations. Not only did he sense the auras of the experts of various clans, but he also sensed the terrifying creatures that were hibernating in the demon saint's secret realm. Behind him, a group of experts chased after him. It was an unprecedented chase. Everywhere they passed, it caused an uproar and attracted attention. The news quickly spread. The Xiozha that were scattered in all the areas of the Yao Saint's secret realm started to understand the ins and outs of this chase. Even outside the sinkhole, there was an uproar. All the important figures were alarmed. It was ridiculous to say that Lin Sun fought against enemies from all directions alone. Although he had an accident on the way and had to escape, many strong people had died in his hands before. Of course, some of the core characters with the life soul bone talismans did not die completely. Their divine souls were directly moved to the outside of the ultimate ruins and appeared on the life soul altars built by the various clans. It was also because of this that the great figures outside the sinkhole learned that all of their clansmen had been killed by that human youth without exception. All of a sudden, the whole place was in an uproar. Originally, these days, those big figures had almost forgotten about the human youth. They thought that he had either suffered a catastrophe or had fallen silent. But they never thought that today, he would appear again with great strength. With the bloody massacre, he set off a monstrous storm. First of all, many clansmen were killed. There were heavy casualties, and there were many old strong people who died with hatred. This news was too shocking. He was just a human youth, but he alone killed so many heroes that blood flowed like a river. He was invincible. Who dared to imagine? Moreover, when the human youth was promoted to the Tao Insight realm, he actually attracted a rare and peerless thunder tribulation. This was even more shocking, which made it difficult for those big figures to calm down. Old monsters like them naturally knew what this thunder tribulation meant. The fact that the human youth could survive 6 thunder tribulations in a row meant that he was simply a freak. Even in ancient times, similar cases were extremely rare. From this, it could be inferred how terrifying and abnormal the human youth's foundation was. Once a young genius like this grew up, he would definitely shock the world and compete with the most dazzling figures of the past and present. Of course, the more dazzling Lin Sun was, the more these big figures disliked and feared him. After all, many of their clansmen were killed by Lin Sun. How could they allow Lin Sun to continue rising? Taoist Gao Yang, it seems that your spirit treasure sacred land has given birth to an amazing peerless genius. Can you tell us who he is? Many important figures in the Soul Oblivion Sea looked at Elder Gao Yang coldly, their faces filled with hostility. Even the bull demon king of the Herculean bull demonic clan, Niu Xiaori, looked over. Obviously, he was also startled and curious about Lin Sun's identity. Elder Gao Yang sensed a form of killing intent and an indescribable pressure. This allowed him to realize that many great figures had aroused killing intent in their hearts, and they wouldn't allow that human youth to leave this area of the sea alive. However, Elder Gao Yang also frowned. He couldn't figure out who this human youth was no matter how hard he tried. This was because among the descendants of the Spirit Treasure Sacred Land, apart from Yun Che, there was no Sea of Souls realm existence. Could it be one of the young men in the retinue? Suddenly, Elder Gao Yang's heart moved. Many faces appeared in his mind, and he quickly thought of one person, Lin Xian, the young man who followed Zhao Jingxian. The reason why he thought of Lin Xian was because on the ship, Elder Gao Yang had heard that this youth had easily defeated Su Xingfeng's retinue, which made Su Xingfeng bear a grudge. Moreover, in the intense battle with the Vengeful Spirit Army, Lin Xian's performance was also very special. In the end, he returned from the depths of the Vengeful Spirit Army alone. This was not simple at all. Could it be him or not? Elder Gao Yang was a bit uncertain. After all, that human youth was too heaven-defying and cruel. It was hard for him to connect Lin Xian with this human youth. I'm also not sure, but everyone, please think carefully. If this person is the descendant of the Spirit Treasure Sacred Land, we will not let anyone bully him. In the end, Elder Gao Yang gave such an answer. He was neither humble nor arrogant, and his calm attitude revealed a sense of dominance. This obviously did not satisfy the other big shots, but they also could not do anything about it. Because the operation in the Demon Saint's secret land was still ongoing, they could not interfere and could only wait outside the ultimate. On this day, there was a heated discussion outside the ultimate and in the Demon Saint's secret land. They all remembered this mysterious human youth. Let's go and kill this man. In the Demon Saint's secret land, many top powerhouses made a decision. They were the representatives of the various clans. When they learned that some of their clansmen were killed by Lin Sun, they were immediately furious. They did not even search for the opportunity and rushed to kill Lin Sun. Among them were the saints of the Jade Unicorn clan, the saints of the Li Mu clan, the saints of the Water Ape clan, and other dazzling top figures of the younger generation. There were also many forces that learned that Lin Sun carried the fortune of the sacred island of 5 elements, and it was very likely that there was a saint's Taoist scripture in it. This made them unwilling to be left behind, and they rushed from all directions to seize this opportunity to seize the fortune. This was destined to be a bloody battle, and it was also a gathering of powerhouses. The entire Demon Saint's secret land was in turmoil. I'm going to have a look. In a crater of purple flames, Zhao Jingxian stood up, her clothes fluttering in the wind, and her clear eyes flashed with a trace of imperceptible worry. At the other side, Xiao Ran sat cross-legged while playing the zither, and he seemed extraordinary and otherworldly. His entire body was like a wisp of misty smoke, and he seemed cultured, refined, and extraordinary. But when he learned of Zhao Jingxuan's decision, he could not help but be a little surprised. He said thoughtfully, Junior sister Jingxian, do you think that the human youth who caused a storm is the Lin Xian beside you? I'm not sure, but I have to go and have a look. Zhao Jingxian looked determined. Senior sister Jingxian, it won't be long before the demon saint opportunity in the purple cloud's holy mountain will appear. If you leave now, you are likely to miss it. On the other side, Yun Che opened his eyes for meditation and reminded her seriously. He had a handsome face and a warm temperament. I've made up my mind. After saying that, Zhao Jingxian floated away. After watching her leave, Yun Che rubbed his chin and pondered. It seems that Lin Xian's identity is not as simple as a retainer. Xiao Ran smiled lightly. Everyone has their own secrets. It's reasonable. Senior brother Xiao Ran, where do you think Su Xingfeng, Wen Xiang, and Gong Yangyu are now? Since entering the demon saint's secret realm, besides some news about senior brother Su Xingfeng, the other two senior brothers seem to have disappeared. There is no news at all. Yun Che suddenly asked. Perhaps they are looking for their own opportunities. However, I believe that when the opportunity in the purple cloud's holy mountain appears, they will definitely come in advance. Xiao Ran said casually and continued to play the zither. He seemed calm and indifferent, as if nothing in the world could affect his state of mind. Oh, Yun Che did not ask any further. Not far away from them, there were many forces gathered near the crater of the purple flames. There were experts from the Herculean Bull clan, the Golden Phoenix clan, the Cloud Monkey clan, the Black Turtle clan, and so on. These were the top clans and forces in the Soul Oblivion Sea. They were like overlords. Now that the experts of these clans were gathered here, one could imagine how shocking the opportunity would be. Xiao Ran and the others represented the Spirit Treasure Sacred Land, so they naturally had to participate in this competition. However, they still had to wait because now was not the time for the opportunity to appear. However, it was foreseeable that when this fortuitous encounter truly appeared, an unprecedentedly fierce battle was bound to occur near this violet-colored volcano. Chapter 581. For several days, Lin Sun had been on the run. Along the way, he had been besieged and attacked countless times. He had been in dozens of fierce battles. In the most serious battles, he was attacked by Yu Shaoxing and Lin Lang. Although he escaped in the end, his injuries became more serious. The most chilling thing was that as time went on, more and more powerful people came to kill him, leaving Lin no time to stop and recover. This situation lasted for more than 10 days. Lin Sun's body was broken and mottled with blood. It seemed that he would fall at any time. Even the Lantern King Ginseng had been exhausted by him. This was a peerless medicine, a rare treasure that even life-death realm kings coveted. But now it was exhausted in the constant escape. It could be imagined how dangerous the fierce battles along the way were. The Lantern King Ginseng was gone, but there was still a Kylan grass. What really worried Lin Sun was that although the external wounds could be healed, the injuries on the Tao platform became more and more precarious. The tribulation chain was too strange and terrible. It was full of the supreme power of rules and order. No matter how Lin Sun tried to resolve it, he couldn't do anything to it. On the contrary, it constantly eroded and eroded the Tao platform, shaking the foundation of the Great Way. On this day, after escaping another chase, Lin Sun hid in a cave in the mountains and silently healed his injuries. Time was limited, so he dared not slack off. These days, he had been thinking about why his Tao Insight realm would lead to such a strange disaster. But he still couldn't figure it out, which cast a shadow over his mind. This is a Tao wound. When Lin Sun tried to ask Jin Di, he unexpectedly got a very heavy answer. You are not tolerated by the gods. I remember that in ancient times, only the taboo and nature-defying figures could cause such terrible tribulations. Jin Di was also quite shocked. He said, I didn't expect you to be such a monster. What on earth are you cultivating? Tao wound? Lin Sun looked dull. He remembered that the nature insight and spirit devour scripture, the meditating magic, the Tianyuan saber play, and the 9 strikes for shaking heaven were all obtained from the heaven accessing place. Even the newly condensed spiritual vein in his body was inextricably linked to the heaven accessing secret land. In this way, the reason why the tribulation was so strange and caused him to be injured by the Great Way, was it related to the heaven accessing secret land? Lin Sun was not sure. For cultivators, Tao injuries are undoubtedly the most terrifying. They harm the foundation of the Great Path, and the Tao injury you suffered is even more special. It is the power of the heavenly tribulation. It is almost impossible to resolve it. Jean D was not joking. Lin Sun's current situation was so serious that he was not in the mood to joke. Since the ancient times until now, countless peerless and world-shocking figures were unable to recover after suffering a Tao injury, and they faded into the crowd. In the end, they stopped on their path towards the Tao and perished with grievances. Is there no way to resolve it? Lin Sun looked more and more stupefied. After a long time, he sighed softly and stopped thinking about it. He would never give up until the last moment. A few days later, Lin Sun was still on the run. He was constantly being chased. His injuries were so serious that he often coughed up blood along the way. That was because his Tao platform was shaking more and more seriously and began to become dim. This was the foundation of his great path. It could be imagined how terrible the consequences would be if it suffered such a serious injury. Damn God! Lin Sun sighed. Until this moment, he did not give up. He did not believe that he would die in the pursuit. He was still pondering and deliberating on how to resolve the Tao injury in his body. You can go. On this day, after a fierce battle, Lin Sun's injuries had begun to deteriorate. His body was broken, as if a gust of wind could blow him away. He decided to let Jean D go. I should be able to hold on for a while longer, but if I encounter any mishaps, you will definitely be implicated as well. So, you can leave now. Lin Sun reminded him seriously. Jean D stood on one side, looking at the teenager in front of him who was bleeding constantly. He seemed to be a little surprised, and a touch of complexity appeared on his handsome and charming face. In the end, he just said, "Oh," and waved his hand saying, "You still have some conscience. When you die, I will set up a grave for you." As he spoke, he turned around and left, quickly disappearing from sight. Lin Sun watched him leave. A touch of self-mockery appeared on his pale and bloodless lips. Then he shook his head and continued to run. A few days later, boom! Another battle broke out. It was the Saint of Water Ape clan and the Saintess of Limu clan who caught up with him. Lin Sun fought with all his might and escaped once again. However, after he escaped this time, he couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed in the depths of a swamp. His entire body was covered in ghastly cracks. His pale face was suffused with a greenish-black color, and his black eyes were dim and lifeless. Still can't resolve it? Lin Sun's heart was filled with strong unwillingness. He completely let go, and his mind was fearless. He didn't care whether there were enemies or not, and he was very ethereal. His body was broken, and his essence, chi, and spirit were almost exhausted. The Tao platform in his body was dim, and the originally bright and clear Tao platform was dyed with terrible gloss of disaster. It was about to collapse. I can only give it a try. One cause and one effect, one drink and one peck. If I want to solve this problem, I should explore from the source. Finally, Lin Sun gritted his teeth and exhausted the last bit of his strength to perceive the mysterious gate to heaven in his sea of consciousness. At this moment, he was like an empty shell, about to die. Boom! All of a sudden, at that moment, a tremendous aura burst out from the primary spiritual vein in his heart, spreading out like a surging tide. His incomparably broken body was immersed in the swamp. It was filled with a deathly aura. However, there was a majestic energy spreading from within his body, allowing the injuries all over his body to swiftly heal. Lin Sun didn't notice all this. Different from the past, this time his consciousness entered the heaven accessing place, and it was still a familiar scene. A straight green cloud path spread straight in the void, and at the end of the path was a mysterious gate, standing there, as if it hadn't been opened for a long time. Once he reached Tao Insight Realm, he would have the opportunity to enter the heaven accessing place again and challenge the fifth pass of Green Cloud Path. Now Lin Sun stood here again, looking around, with different feelings in his heart. A familiar obscure wave quietly spread and swept through Lin Sun's body. After that, a voice that was cold as ice resounded in this expanse of the heavens and the earth. Practitioner, the fifth pass of Green Cloud Path is Tao Fusion. Do you want to challenge it now? Lin Sun shook his head. How could he have the mood to challenge it at this moment? Without any hesitation, he asked aloud. I just want to ask if the disaster and Tao injury I suffered are related to this place? He clearly remembered that the other party had answered a question when he challenged the last time, which made him sure that the other party must exist and had psychic wisdom. However, at this time, he waited for a long time, but no one answered. The world was silent. Just when Lin Sun was a little discouraged, the cold and emotionless voice finally sounded. This pass is prepared for refining Tao injury. This sentence was earth-shattering. Lin Sun suddenly cheered up. Sure enough, the source of this strange disaster is here. Practitioner, do you want to challenge it? The voice that was as cold as ice asked. Lin Sun took a deep breath and said without thinking too much, yes. Master the meaning of Tao cutting tactics, and you can pass. When this cold voice fell, a rain of light turned into mysterious ancient runes, covering Lin Sun's whole figure. Almost subconsciously, Lin Sun sat cross-legged on the ground and closed his eyes. At the same time, a grand sound of Tao resounded in the depths of his heart, and all kinds of obscure and mysterious mysteries emerged. Tao cutting tactics. In short, this cultivation method was not prepared for cultivation, but a mysterious method to refine the tribulation power. Against the heaven and Tao, dissolving the tribulation, and integrating the Tao into the nature. These words could sum up the real purpose of this wonderful method. It turns out that the creator of the heaven accessing place had already foreseen everything that would happen today when I first started to break through the barriers. That's why he set up the 9 barriers of the Green Cloud Path, as a test to guide and pass on the inheritance step by step. No. This is prepared for the challenger, not for me alone. No matter who has the heaven accessing secret land, when they reach this step after going through many tests, they will encounter similar tribulations. That's why the Tao cutting formula exists. Against the heaven and Tao, who on earth created the heaven accessing place. Soon Lin Sun had no time to think about it. He immersed himself in understanding and began to master all kinds of mysteries about Tao cutting tactic. After a long time, the cold voice suddenly sounded in Lin Sun's ears again. The 6th pass of the heaven accessing place is spirit control. Next time you challenge it, you need to master the power of Tao. When the voice disappeared, Lin Sun's consciousness left the heaven accessing place and returned to his body. Cause and effect. Thinking of the thunder test he had encountered before, the bloody pursuit along the way, and entering the heaven accessing place to find the way to dispel the tribulation, Lin Sun had a kind of enlightenment. For the first time, he realized that there was a mysterious force of cause and effect in this world. Without the heaven accessing place, there would be no Lin Sun today. But at the same time, because of the heaven accessing place, his cultivation path became completely different from that of other practitioners. There were many unexpected tribulations and dangers. This was cause and effect. Without thinking more, Lin Sun ran Tao cutting tactics and began to try to dissolve the tribulation power on the Tao platform. His mind was clear and empty, without any desire or thought. With the operation of Tao cutting tactics, there was an invisible obscure aura in the cave, which shrouded the tribulation chain in an instant, the cave began to roar and emit auspicious clouds. After a long time, a fierce sound of fighting rang out and shook the field. The momentum was so amazing that even Lin Sun, who was refining the tribulation power with all his strength, was alarmed. Chapter 582. It turned out that there was a mistake in the previous chapter and a chapter had been corrected. The fierce sound of the battle made the swamp area completely restless. Who was fighting? Lin Sun was lying in the swamp. Although his body was healing, he hadn't recovered yet. The reason was that his previous injuries were too serious. He couldn't even open his eyes at this moment. In addition, he was running Tao cutting tactics with all his strength to resolve the divine punishment chain, so he didn't dare to be distracted at this moment. But even so, Lin Sun still realized that he was facing an unprecedented threat. If he couldn't recover soon, he might be in trouble. Lin Sun didn't dare to neglect. He abandoned all distractions and devoted himself to refining. This time, he was really injured to the extreme. Under normal circumstances, he would die without a doubt. There was no way for him to survive. However, just as he was about to run out of energy, the origin spirit vein released a majestic power that turned everything around. At this moment, with the operation of cutting Tao tactics, the inside of Lin Sun's cave was steaming with auspicious light and the sound of Buddha roaring. The mysterious light rushed up to the platform one by one, completely covering the chain of heaven's punishment and refining it. At this moment, Lin Sun's potential was awakened and fully recovered. Like a dry riverbed, it was watered by the surging power. His cracked and damaged body was repaired, his injuries gradually closing. He began to produce abundant life force, no longer as deathly still as before. Boom, the movement in the cave heaven became stronger and stronger. It could be seen that the divine punishment chain was being refined little by little into a force, which was poured on the mottled and dim platform. This was a kind of power of order and law. Although it was refined and the remaining breath was extremely weak, it still had incredible power. Yet now, all of the refined energy had fused into the Tao platform, causing the Tao platform to receive unprecedented nourishment and tempering. This was simply stealing the creation of heaven. Who dared to imagine that the power of divine punishment could be refined and integrated into the cave heaven to pour and temper the Tao heaven? This was the magic of Tao cutting tactic. The power of divine punishment fed the origin of Tao, integrated into the foundation of Great Way, and carried out extreme transformation. The rumbling continued like the Sanskrit sound of the Great Way. Lin Sun's originally dim cave was overflowing with light and colors at this moment, and it was constantly expanding while divine clouds and auspicious light suffused the air. Even the Tao platform had stabilized once more, and it was no longer as bright and clean as it was before. However, it now possessed a simple and unadorned aura. As it stood towering within the abode, it seemed as if it could endure hardships and endure eternity with the world. All of this was like a blessing in disguise. When he was on the verge of true death, he'd turned the situation around in one go and was reborn from death, and it just happened to be like he'd undergone rebirth in cultivation. This was the path to the peak. Even though it could be said to be the strongest path of the Tao in the world, the suffering, setbacks, and hardships one encountered were unimaginably terrifying. Even someone as amazing as Lin Sun was almost killed. Just now, he survived nearly half a month of hunting and torture. This road, at least in Xiao Empire, was absolutely unprecedented and unique. There were practically no records of it in the ancient texts, and it was like a taboo that wasn't allowed to exist in the world. Motherf *Ker, if I had known there were so many enemies chasing you, I wouldn't have come back. Suddenly, the voice of old toad Jean D rang in his ears, which surprised Lin Sun, who was in cultivation. Did the toad actually come back? A wisp of consciousness spread out, and Lin Sun immediately saw Jean Dui in a green robe beside him, bleeding all over, holding his thigh and scolding angrily with his teeth bared. Ouch, ouch, it really hurts. Boy, I'll remember you. You cut me 3 times, and I'll eat you sooner or later. While shouting, Jean D looked at Lin Sun beside him worriedly and muttered, Is this boy really dead? Why hasn't he woken up yet? Alas, if I had known this, I wouldn't have come back. Listening to this, Lin Sun felt a burst of warmth in his heart. He secretly thought that although this guy's character wasn't good, he was very worthy of recognition for his loyalty to friends. At the same time, there was an inexplicable anger in Lin Sun's heart. Obviously, Old Toad had been seriously injured in the battle just now, and he did this to protect Lin Sun. That chick is not bad. Fighting alone with a group of strong people, I really don't know what kind of luck you have to find such a beautiful and affectionate girl. Jean D sighed with emotion. Lin Sun's heart shook fiercely. There was still someone helping him? He spread out his consciousness and instantly noticed that a fierce battle was breaking out not far away. Yu Shaoxing, the holy son of the Dragon Whale clan, Lin Lang, the holy girl of the Blood Lion clan, the holy son of the Jade Unicorn clan, the holy son of the Demonic Elephant clan, the holy girl of the Li Mu clan and other top figures of the younger generation were all on the battlefield. And at this moment, they were besieging one person. No, not besieging, but being entangled by one person. No matter who wanted to rush to his side, he would be attacked by that person at all costs. That person, it was Zhao Jingxian. Her clothes were stained with blood, her clear and beautiful face was pale, her hair was messy, and her figure staggered. Obviously, she had been seriously injured. But even then, she was still resisting and persisting. Her clear eyes were filled with firmness and resolution, and she hadn't hesitated in the slightest. Lin Sun's heart shook while an indescribable feeling surged through his entire body. How could he have imagined that the dignified princess of the empire, the heir of the numinous treasure Holy Land, Zhao Jingxian, would practically disregard her life and fight for the sake of protecting him? You really are mad. You don't even want your life for the sake of this dying young man? A loud shout resounded, and it was a ghastly voice that revealed killing intent. It was Yu Shaoxing, and his expression was filled with impatience. You're all alone, so it's utterly impossible for you to stop us. Quickly move aside and stop resisting stubbornly. Otherwise, you'll definitely suffer calamity today. Many experts threatened because Zhao Jingxuan's strength had exceeded their expectations, and it caused them to feel that it was slightly difficult to deal with. Fortunately, Zhao Jingxian was on the verge of being unable to persist any longer, and it wouldn't be long before she was bound to be killed. Zhao Jingxian seemed as if she hadn't heard all of this, and her expression was firm while her clear eyes were filled with resolution. Blood was dripping from the corners of her mouth, and even her figure was staggering. It caused Lin Sun to feel heart-wrenching pain and hatred, and he wished for nothing more than to immediately kill his way over and stand before Zhao Jingxian. A proud genius of an empire, a direct line descendant of the current emperor, possessed an extraordinarily lofty status. However, at this moment, she was like a stubborn madwoman that disregarded everything and stopped all enemies from approaching Lin Sun at all costs. This sort of scene seemed to be exceptionally horrifying and shocking. No one could understand whether it was worth paying such a price for the sake of a dying young man. It was precisely because of this that Zhao Jingxuan's actions seemed to be childish and laughable in the eyes of the top figures of the various clans. She was like a moth flying into a flame, and she seemed to be extremely stupid. Alas, if I'm able to have such a woman by my side in my lifetime, then it would be worth it even if I don't seek immortality. Jean D sighed with emotion. He was shocked as well, and he was unable to imagine exactly how important Lin Sun's status in Zhao Jingxuan's heart was to the point that she actually risked her life to help him. Kid, wake up quickly if you still have any conscience. Once such a beauty passes away, then you're bound to live with regret for your entire lifetime. Jean D murmured. As if hearing Jean Duyi's words, Lin Sun's body, lying in the swamp, suddenly sat up. The wounds on his body were constantly healing and regenerating. Boom! A powerful wave spread from Lin Sun's body like a hurricane, sweeping through the swamp. The whole world trembled like the undulating waves of the sea. However, Lin Sun just sat there cross-legged with his eyes closed, without any further action. However, it could be clearly seen that a brilliant divine glow was steaming out of his body. It was brilliant, magnificent and brilliant like a waterfall, and there was a strong and immeasurable life essence surging. At this moment, the world seemed to be robbed of its brilliance by Lin Sun and became dim. In the hazy mist and undulating swamp, Lin Sun was like a statue receiving a kind of nourishment and baptism, shining with dazzling divine brilliance. Ha ha ha, he's awake. This guy has finally woken up. He actually resolved the Taoist injury. My God! This guy is definitely a monster. Suddenly Jean Duyi laughed. Not far away, the expressions of Yu Shaoxing, Lin Lang and the other strong people changed as they realized that the situation was not good. Zhao Jingxian was originally on the verge of collapse, but at this moment, when she sensed the surging vitality that erupted from Lin Sun's body, her clear eyes suddenly brightened, and she murmured in her heart, "Do you all see it? This is the meaning of my persistence. Kill! Kill this woman quickly! Damn it, this kid actually wants to rise again. We must not let him succeed. Quick, use your strongest means." The strong people of the various races shouted and launched their strongest attacks. In just an instant, Zhao Jingxian was heavily injured again. A long wound was torn on her back, her skin and flesh were torn open, and blood was dripping. Her internal organs were almost injured. Kill! At the same time, Yu Shaoxing seized the opportunity and rushed out, carrying the dragon bone halberd, and slashed towards Lin Sun. With a bang, the void shattered. It was conceivable how terrifying this attack was. It was definitely Yu Shaoxing's strongest attack. With me here, how can I let you succeed? Suddenly, Jean Duyi shouted loudly. Even though he'd already suffered a heavy injury, he actually charged up ferociously at this moment and helped Lin Sun block this attack. But in the next moment, he was blasted flying and smashed into the swamp. The bones in his entire body seemed to have been broken, and he was on the verge of death. Little bastard, let's see if you can survive this time. Yu Shaoxing's expression was cold. As he spoke, his movements weren't slow in the slightest, and he swung the halberd mercilessly and gave rise to a terrifying brilliance of the Tao. How dare you! In the distance, Zhao Jingxuan's expression changed abruptly as she let out an extremely furious roar, and she disregarded everything as she charged over. But she was obviously a step too late. The dragon bone halberd descended, and it was about to chop off Lin Sun's head. No! Jean Duyi, who was on the verge of death, let out a howl, and his eyes almost split apart from rage. We've already come this far. Could it be that I'm going to be killed just like this? But to everyone's surprise, Yu Shaoxing's attack had clearly arrived before Lin Sun's head, yet it stopped there and was unable to chop down. Chapter 583. Bang! A loud bang resounded as Yu Shaoxing's figure and the halberd in his hand were blasted flying by a terrifying force. His figure staggered back for over 30 meters before he stopped. Even though he didn't suffer any injuries, a wisp of surprise and bewilderment had already appeared on his face. The others were even more shocked. They were unable to imagine that Lin Sun would crush Yu Shaoxing's strongest attack with only his palm at the most critical moment. Zhao Jingxian was originally nervous to the extreme, yet when she saw this scene, her heart that was hanging in her throat finally relaxed, and a wisp of a relieved smile appeared on her face. Kid, quickly get up and kill these utterly heartless and despicable bastards. Jean Duyi shouted loudly as well. He was on the verge of death, and he was obviously severely injured, yet he seemed to be very spirited and excited at this moment. However, Lin Sun still sat there cross-legged while his entire body glowed. There were no cracks or scars on his body, and he was completely unharmed. On the other hand, within the cave within his body, the radiance of spiritual energy surged like an ocean while dazzling divine radiance gushed out. A simple and unadorned platform stood there, and 3 divine lights that were dazzling like white jade hung down from it. Everything seemed grand, vast, and brilliant. He'd completely recovered. His injuries had been completely resolved, and the energy of the tribulation chain had been crushed and fused into the platform to become nourishment for consolidating and tempering the platform. At this point, his entire body had stepped foot on the peak of the initial stage of the Tao Insight realm, and he'd become even stronger than before. At this moment, no one dared to step forward and offend him because the aura that flowed out from Lin Sun's body was too overbearing and arrogant, and it suppressed all the beasts in this world to the point of trembling and prostrating themselves on the ground. Swoosh! Lin Sun opened his eyes, and it was like 2 mountain peaks had torn open the void, causing the entire void to be dazzling and shocking. Up until this moment, Lin Sun felt that he was completely different from the past, and he could truly look down upon the world and the crowd. The terrifying aura was restrained and concealed within Lin Sun's body like a tide. All the beasts in this world stopped trembling, and they quickly got up and fled as if they'd been freed. Lin Sun's figure was extraordinary. His eyes were clear and deep, peaceful and tranquil. His entire body was filled with divine radiance, and it didn't contain the slightest trace of the mortal world. His gaze swept across the surroundings, and there was a sense of returning to simplicity. "You're finally awake, not far away," Zhao Jingxian said softly. A smile bloomed on her pale face, which made Lin's heart tremble. Before he could finish speaking, Zhao Jingxian seemed to be unable to hold on any longer. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and his body fell from the sky. In the previous battle, she'd fought against many saint-level figures by herself. She'd staked everything on a single throw, and it was as if she didn't care about her life. It was already a fluke that she'd survived. But now, because her injuries were too severe, she simply could not hold on any longer. Lin Sun's figure flashed, and he embraced Zhao Jingxian in his arms with great force as if he was deeply afraid that the latter would be lost if he let go. Zhao Jingxian frowned and said, "You're hurting me." Her face was clear and beautiful. In the past, she always looked elegant and smart. Now lying in Lin Sun's arms, she showed a rare trace of weakness. Lin Sun gazed at her pale face. He originally had a lot to say in his heart, but in the end, he only said one sentence: "Have a good rest. Leave the rest to me." This sentence was so simple and plain as if it was a casual chat, but it stunned Zhao Jingxian. Inexplicable emotions were fermenting in her eyes. In the end she just said, In the distance Jean Dui was lying in the swamp, muttering angrily to himself, "What a guy who forgets his friends at the sight of love. Didn't he see that I almost died? Why didn't he come to save me first? My injuries are much more serious than that girl's." As if he'd heard Jean Dui's voice, Lin Sun turned his head and said, "Thank you, old toad." Jean Dui shouted loudly, "If you really want to apologize, then go and kill those bastards for this king." "Okay." Lin Sun nodded and agreed readily. It was just that before the battle, he first sent Zhao Jingxian to the first floor of the Wordless Pagoda to recuperate, and then asked Jean Dui if he wanted to recuperate first. In the end, he was flatly refused by the latter, saying that he wanted to see how those guys died with his own eyes. During this process, Yu Shaosheng, Lin Lang and the others watched coldly from the sidelines, observing Lin Sun's aura. They didn't act rashly. In reality, from the moment Yu Shaosheng had been blasted back, they'd realized that it was already impossible to kill Lin Sun before he recovered. And the aura released by Lin Sun made them feel frightened and oppressed, so they didn't dare to act rashly. But when they heard Jean Dui call them bastards and say that he wanted to see Lin Sun kill them with his own eyes, they still couldn't help it. "Hey, do you really think he's a savior? What a joke. So what if he recovers? In front of us, he can't escape death." The holy son of the Green Unicorn clan spoke, his eyes cold and murderous. Everyone, it's undeniable that this lad is very difficult to deal with. Most importantly, if we want to seize the fortune on this lad, we must kill him before others arrive. Yu Shaoxing also spoke with a cold expression. So, why don't we join forces and wipe him out with all our might, then divide the fortune on him? As soon as these words were spoken, many powerhouses immediately agreed. The aura that Lin Sun revealed just now was too strong, and it actually made them rather fearful. It couldn't be better if they could join forces. But I have something to remind everyone. When dealing with this lad, you can't hold back your strength like you did with that woman just now. Linlong's voice was cold as she reminded them. When dealing with Zhao Jingxian just now, they fought individually, all wanting to be the first to kill Lin Sun and seize the fortune. This instead gave Zhao Jingxian many opportunities to take advantage of, causing them to lose many excellent opportunities. This time, they had to deal with Lin Sun, who had recovered, and Lin Lang didn't want something similar to happen again. The other holy sons of the other clans were silent, agreeing with this suggestion. Are you done? Then I'll send you on your way. Lin Sun watched all of this with an indifferent expression, and it was only now that he finally spoke. His entire body suddenly rumbled and flowed with Taoist rhymes, and his aura instantly rose to an extremely terrifying peak state. It was as if a god had awakened in his body, and it was shocking. The heavens and the earth wailed, the weather changed, and the terrifying aura wreaked havoc, causing the souls of Yu Shaoxing and the others to palpitate incessantly. What a terrifying aura! A holy son's expression was solemn. If this lad isn't eliminated, no one will be able to suppress him in the future. Sooner or later, he'll become a great calamity. Yu Shaoxing's killing intent burst forth. Kill! A powerhouse took the lead to attack. It was the holy son of the demonic elephant clan. His physique was as huge as a mountain, and his entire body seethed with deep and terrifying demonic qi. In his hand, he carried a giant white bone rod. With a rumble, he smashed through the void and smashed it towards Lin Sun's head in the distance. That level of power was completely capable of crushing mountains and rivers and throwing the universe into disorder. It was too violent and ferocious. Dazzling Taoist rhymes appeared around Lin Sun. Multicolored light flowed, divine and vast, as if a god had descended to the mortal world and was patrolling the world. He struck out with a casual punch, meeting his opponent head-on. Dong! The seemingly ordinary punch shook the giant white bone rod to the point of trembling and wailing. Meanwhile, the body of the holy son of the demonic elephant clan was enveloped by the force of the punch, and he was sent flying as if he was being crushed by a divine mountain. Such might instantly shocked everyone. A single punch had defeated the holy son of the demonic elephant clan, and he was unable to compete with Lin Sun. This is truly heaven-defying. In the distance, Jean Di's eyes widened as he muttered to himself with an excited expression. What are you still standing there for? Let's attack together. Yu Shaoxing roared furiously. With a clang, he waved the dragonbone halberd and let out a long howl as he slashed out. The other powerhouses naturally didn't dare to be negligent. Merely a single strike had made them realize how terrifying and abnormal this human youth was. This made them feel even more fearful, and they didn't dare to disregard him. All of them attacked. Buzz! Grand and ancient sound waves resounded in the surroundings. The blood-colored bronze bell revolved and appeared, accompanying the holy girl to kill Lin Sun. Huff! The holy son of the Green Unicorn clan shouted and took out a green jade ruler. Mysterious Taoist patterns emerged on it, and it had a kind of majestic power that could enlighten all living beings. Without a doubt, this green ruler was also an ancient saint artifact. Whoosh! An emerald green divine brilliance pervaded the air, turning into an ancient armor that covered the body of the holy girl of the Li Mu clan. The armor was branded with a mysterious totem, and it had a kind of vast and primitive aura. Obviously, the origin of this armor was also extraordinary. Now, these holy sons of various clans attacked with all their might. In an instant, there was a shocking fluctuation in this world, as if the end of the world was coming. The scene was extremely terrifying. In this turbulence, Lin Sun's black hair was loose, and his eyes were clear and bright. He had an indescribable transcendent demeanor. Using the ice dragon steps, he walked out of holiness step by step with immeasurable divine power. He displayed the 9 strikes for shaking heaven. His fist strength was simple and untainted, but it possessed an incredible destructive power. It collapsed the void, shook all kinds of secret treasures, and destroyed all laws. It couldn't be suppressed at all. Even if he was besieged by a group of peerless figures of the same generation, even if he was restrained by many shocking secret treasures, they couldn't suppress his demeanor and divine power at all. Rumble! Heaven and earth rumbled as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. How shocking was the attack of the holy sons! In the outside world, such an unparalleled battle was extremely rare, and it would attract the attention of the world and set off a great uproar. Die! In the battle, the holy son of the Green Unicorn clan roared angrily. He raised the green jade ruler and seized the opportunity to smash it towards Lin Sun's back. With a roar, the shadow of a divine beast emerged from Lin Sun's back. It raised its head and roared. With a rumble, it directly knocked the holy son of the Green Unicorn clan away. His body trembled and he coughed up blood. Slash. On the other side, Yu Shaoxing waved his halberd and struck down. Lin Sun didn't even look at him. He punched out, and the sacred fist strength burst forth, sending Yu Shaoxing flying and staggering. At the same time, the shadow of an ice dragon appeared under Lin Sun's feet. With a flick of its tail, it fiercely whipped the holy son of the demonic elephant clan. The latter let out a muffled groan as the bones in his shoulder collapsed and blood flowed. In an instant, 2 holy sons were forced back, and one was even injured. Such peerless divine power was simply unparalleled, and it made Lin Sun all the more extraordinary. He was like a king sweeping through all enemies of the same realm. In the distance, Jin Di was dumbfounded. His heart was completely boiling, and he was shocked again and again. He could imagine that Lin Sun was destined to be very strong after he recovered, but he didn't expect him to be strong to this extent. Chapter 584. The heavens and the earth shook. A swamp had collapsed long ago, the ground cracked, and it was a scene of desolation. Lin Sun strode through the sky. His figure glowed while his black hair fluttered in the wind, and the image of an ice-hornless dragon coiled around him. Even though he was alone, he'd fought numerous top figures of the same generation. His divine might was supreme, and he possessed an unparalleled spirit. Auspicious rays of light surged and spiritual energy rumbled within his abode. An ancient platform was enshrouded by 3 treasures, and it emanated the faintly discernible sound of the Grand Tao. It was boundlessly divine. No one could imagine how terrifying Lin Sun's reserves were at this moment, or how formidable the path he'd stepped onto was. Bang! In merely a short moment, Saintess Linlang was pushed back. If it wasn't for the protection of the blood-red bell, merely this attack would be sufficient to heavily injure her. Even then, she couldn't help but cough up blood, and her expression became even colder and more solemn. Kill! Yu Shaoxing shouted explosively with peerless valor. The dragon-bone halberd emanated surging markings as he fought fiercely with Lin Sun, and his killing intent poured out like tidewater. But it wasn't long before he couldn't hold on any longer, and he had no choice but to retreat. The reason was that the strength of Lin Sun's fist was too strong. It seemed to be casual and otherworldly, but it was actually filled with the might to destroy the heavens and the earth, and even Yu Shaoxing didn't dare take it head-on. How could he be so strong? His expression grew even more gloomy and unsightly. At this moment, it wasn't just him and Linlang, all the other saints were like this as well. How formidable were they when they joined forces? But they were unable to suppress Lin Sun, and they were suppressed repeatedly instead. This caused their hearts to turn cold. What sort of monster was this? He'd just advanced into the heavenly abode realm, and he'd almost been killed in the pursuit just now. But he'd recovered in the blink of an eye, and his combat strength had become even more terrifying than before. This was simply unbelievable. Everyone, if we don't eliminate this kid, then no matter who it is, we'll have to live under his shadow in the future. Are any of you willing? Yu Shaoxing let out a long howl, and he encouraged everyone to exert their full strength. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Kill! He was the first to use his trump card. Phantoms of mountains appeared on the dragon bone halberd one after another, stacking on top of each other and suppressing the void. When looked at from afar, at this moment, he seemed to be moving through a mountain, and his entire body was glowing brilliantly. He was simply like a king of gods that was moving mountains. Everyone glanced over and were extremely moved. What sort of might is this? It was too thrilling. Boom! Lin Sun confronted him head-on. He stretched out his palms and fingers and directly smashed a mountain. Then, he stepped forward bravely and fiercely fought with him. In that instant, the ice centipede's cries resounded through the 9 heavens. Its powerful body spiraled about, actually blasting those mountains into pieces, turning them into a rain of light that exploded. Yu Shaoxing's trump card attack was actually about to be broken? The hearts of those divine children constricted, and they didn't dare dally at all. They charged over from all directions while utilizing their entire strengths, and they didn't dare dally in the slightest. For a time, figures intersected in this expanse of the heavens and the earth while divine radiance seethed, and an area of 50 kilometers in the surroundings had transformed into a turbulent battlefield. One had to admit that Yu Shaoxing and the others did indeed possess extremely impressive resources to be able to become the chosen of the various races. They were definitely the top figures of the younger generation, as dazzling as the sun. At this moment, they'd utilized their entire strengths and trump cards in unison, and it instantly turned the entire situation around. They encircled and suppressed Lin Sun, causing the battle to be intense to the extreme. But they were unable to kill Lin Sun in a short period of time. Rumble! Divine rays of light shot through the sky while secret treasures shocked the world. This was a peak battle that was rarely seen in the world. If news of this were to spread, then probably no one would dare believe that Lin Sun was actually able to compete with all the divine children by himself. Along with the passage of time, this battle grew more and more horrifying and extremely dangerous, and it caused Yu Shaoxing, Lin Lang, and the others to become anxious in their hearts. They didn't have time to waste. If they didn't kill Lin Sun as soon as possible and seize the fortune in his possession, then it wouldn't be long before even more experts would rush over. If that was the case, then all the efforts they'd made earlier would be utterly meaningless. Fellow Taoist, so long as you hand over the fortune in your possession, then we'll turn around and leave right away, and we won't be enemies with you any longer. How about it? Suddenly, the Jade Unicorn clan's chosen spoke. This suggestion caused the others to be slightly moved. All of them realized that even if they were able to suppress Lin Sun this time, it would be extremely difficult to kill him. Even if they were unwilling, they had to admit that Lin Sun was really too strong, and he was simply like a heaven-defying monster. I'll give all of you a suggestion as well. Leave your lives, and I can give all of you a dignified death. Lin Sun's expression grew even more calm and indifferent while his black eyes were clear and bright. But no one knew that his heart was already filled with killing intent. He'd been besieged when he was undergoing the heavenly tribulation, and then he'd been repeatedly pursued by Yu Shaoxing and the others during his escape for over 10 days. He'd experienced innumerable dangers, and he'd even almost lost his life on many occasions. Under such circumstances, how could Lin Sun discuss terms with them? Even if he didn't discuss all of this, merely for the sake of Zhao Jingxian, Lin Sun would absolutely not allow these fellows to leave unharmed. Looks like you intend to shed all pretense of cordiality with us? Haha, what an arrogant human. Cut the crap. Kill him with all your might. Lin Sun's voice revealed resolute killing intent, and it caused Yu Shaoxing and the others to be completely infuriated, causing their attacks to become even more terrifying. Boy, you must hold on. If you don't kill them today, will you be worthy of everything I've done for you? Far away, Jean Dui muttered. In fact, he was also a little nervous. The battle had become more and more tragic and terrifying, making it difficult for him to calm down. Clang! Suddenly, Lin Sun, who was in the midst of the battle, took out his broken blade. In an instant, the power around him changed again. He was like a sword immortal, blooming with peerless sharpness. Almost at the same time, the holy son of the demonic elephant clan approached. When he noticed the change in Lin Sun, his face suddenly changed, and his scalp went numb. He subconsciously dodged to one side. He sensed an extreme sense of danger, but he was obviously a step too late. In an instant, it seemed as if stars fell from the blade one after another. The eternal night came, covering all directions as if to erase everything. RFS. However, the current RFS contained a wave of Tao, which combined with Lin Sun's peerless power that belonged to Tao Insight Realm. It was like a brand new, and its power was completely different from before. Boom! Stars fell, and the eternal night came. The power was so terrifying. The holy son of the demonic elephant clan roared in anger. He waved the green jade ruler in his hand, and almost staked everything on one throw. He released all his power to fight against the eternal night. But after an earth-shattering roar, his whole figure was submerged by the terrible divine light, and he screamed. This made Yu Shaoxing and the others' hearts skip a beat, and their faces changed abruptly. When they wanted to help, it was too late. In an instant, the holy son of the demonic elephant clan seemed to be cut into pieces. His flesh and blood flew everywhere, and his figure was broken. If it weren't for the green jade ruler, he would have been killed on the spot. Even so, he was still seriously injured. He let out a crazy and shrill scream and fled into the distance. That's right, at this moment, an incredibly awe-inspiring holy son had fled like a stray dog in the face of the threat of death. How could Lin Sun let him do as he wished? He chased after him with the broken blade in his hand. Stop him! Yu Shaoxing roared and besieged Lin Sun with other strong men. Boom! A cold light flashed in Lin Sun's black eyes, and he displayed the burning sun style without the slightest hesitation. It was like a sun had soared into the sky, and it burned fiercely and emitted a terrifying destructive and incinerating force. This expanse of the heavens and the earth were incinerated. The void distorted and wailed, and everything was burning. The force was too terrifying, and it was simply about to incinerate the heavens and the earth. Amidst a wave of furious roars, Yu Shaoxing and the others were blasted back by this attack. They either dodged in a sorry state or coughed up blood and suffered injuries. The scene was terrifying. It was only a single attack, but the siege of the Holy Sons was broken. What was peerless brilliance? That was it. Lin Sun, who held the broken blade in his hand, seemed so arrogant, and it caused them to be terrified. Their only regret was that the holy son of the demonic elephant clan had taken advantage of this opportunity to escape, and he was lucky enough to keep his life. However, with the heavy injuries he suffered, even if he stayed in the demon saint's secret realm, it would be impossible for him to recover in a short period of time. How could they fight him? At this moment, Yu Shaoxing and the others were livid, and their hearts were filled with fear. The way they looked at Lin Sun had changed. Their fighting spirit was shaken. The miserable condition of the holy son of the demonic elephant clan made them completely aware of Lin Sun's terror, and they began to be fearful and terrified. Kill! Lin Sun attacked again. He did not stop at all, nor did he intend to give his opponents any chance. The broken blade swept across the sky, and it was as if a galaxy had been rolled up. Stars rolled and gushed out. This expanse of heaven and earth trembled, and the fierce battle continued. However, it was different from before. Yu Shaoxing, Lin Lang, and the others had realized that the situation was different. Lin Sun's power was matchless, and he was almost unrivaled, and could no longer be suppressed. The worst thing was that their fighting spirit had been shaken. After all, they did not come from the same camp. Although they were cooperating, who would risk their lives desperately when they sensed that something was wrong? Boom! Before long, an arm of the Li Mu clan's saintess was chopped off, and blood burst out like a waterfall. Her pretty face suddenly turned pale, and she let out a muffled groan. She actually gritted her teeth, turned around, and fled. Broken arms could be regrown, but if she was killed here, the consequences would be too serious. The other strongmen felt a chill in their hearts. The saintess of the Li Mu clan was wearing an ancient armor with unparalleled defensive power, but she was still chopped off by Lin Sun and fled. Let's go. At this moment, Yu Shaoxing, Lin Lang, and the Holy Son of the Jade Unicorn clan withdrew from the battlefield at the same time, and fled to the distance with incomparable decisiveness. This made the only remaining Holy Son of the Water Ape clan suddenly dumbfounded. He was so angry that his eyes turned red, and he roared, "A group of cowards! I was blind to cooperate with you." To his surprise, Lin Sun ignored him at this moment. Instead, he waved his sleeves and released the four-image coiling dragon pillar, which trapped Lin Lang in the distance with a bang. At the same time, insignificant spiritual bow appeared in his palm. With a bang, a silent spiritual arrow shuttled through the void and shot towards Yu Shaoxing in the distance. From releasing the four-image coiling dragon pillar to pulling the insignificant spiritual bow, it was almost done in one breath. It was incredibly fast. The speed of the action stunned the Holy Son of the Water Ape clan, and an inexplicable thought emerged in his mind. Could it be that this guy had already expected such a scene, so he was ready to kill in advance? Chapter 585. With a rumble, the four pillars shone brightly, trapping the saintess within. This set of treasures was also an ancient treasure. Although it had a simple function, it was extremely magical. It could create illusions and trap the opponent within. Even if a life-and-death realm king came to the rescue, it would be hard to shake within a cup of tea's time. Puff! On the other side, the spiritual arrow pierced through the air. Under the lock of Lin Sun's enormous soul power, it instantly pierced through Yu Shaoxing's back, blowing half of his body into pieces. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. If it were any other practitioner, this attack alone would be enough to kill them. However, Yu Shaoxing seemed to be different. With only his broken body, he managed to hold on and continue to escape. When Lin Sun wanted to add another arrow, his opponent had already disappeared without a trace. This made Lin Sun frown. He then looked at the Saint of the Water Ape clan not far away. The latter's face turned green, his eyes filled with fear. He clenched his teeth and said, "I have the bone talisman. You can't kill me. How about we make a deal?" He was indeed afraid. Just now, he was surrounded by a group of saints, but he was still defeated by Lin Sun. Now that he was the only one left, how could he have the confidence to fight against Lin Sun? Without waiting for Lin Sun to speak, he flipped his hand, and a storage bracelet appeared in his palm. He said, "This contains some rare spiritual medicines and treasures I collected after entering the Demon Saint's secret realm. As long as you let me go this time, I can give them all to you." Lin Sun shook his head. Not enough. The Saint of the Water Ape clan's face darkened, but he finally restrained himself and said, "What on earth do you want to let me go? I heard that your Water Ape clan has an ancient inheritance called Golden Body of Fire. If you hand it over, perhaps I can exchange it for your life." At this moment, the old toad appeared out of nowhere. Its pair of golden eyes stared at the Saint of the Water Ape clan, making the latter's hair stand on end. "No way. This is the supreme inheritance of my clan. I would rather die than give it to anyone else. The Saint of the Water Ape Clan refused without hesitation. Then hand over the white bone rod in your hand. That should be enough, right? The old toad's eyes were extremely vicious, and his face was full of desire. The Saint of the Water Ape Clan was so angry that his face turned green. He was a saint. When had he ever swallowed an insult like this? Not to mention being extorted and robbed. This is my clan's ancestral artifact, the Holy Bone Staff. It can't be given to outsiders either. To put it bluntly, even if I gave it to you, you wouldn't be able to use it. The Holy Son of the Water Ape race flatly refused again. Old Toad was instantly annoyed. Damn monkey, why are you so stubborn? Do you believe that we will kill you first and then plunder all the treasures on you? The Saint of the Water Ape race sneered. He wasn't afraid of the old Toad, but he was afraid of Lin Sun. How about this? Old Toad stroked his chin, his eyes darting around as he casually said, other than your inheritance and the ancestral artifact, leave behind all your other treasures and I'll let you go this time. Lin Sun had the intention to kill, but after hearing Old Toad's words, he immediately decided to look on coldly. This toad was a three-legged golden toad that could identify all kinds of treasures. He must have taken a fancy to some kind of treasure on this water ape. Alright. This time, the sacred son of the Water Ape tribe hesitated for a while, but eventually agreed and handed over all his treasures. Are you really going to let him go? Lin Sun frowned. The sacred son of the Water Ape race had already left, but if he tried his best, he could still catch up with him. Alas, let him go. Old Toad's expression was a little complicated. After a long while, he said, the ancestor of the Water Ape race was actually a descendant of the ancient six-eared macaque. Although the current Water Ape race has almost nothing to do with the six-eared macaque, you'd better not provoke them. Lin Sun was stunned. Why? Old Toad knocked on his head and said with a sad face, I can't remember. Anyway, my intuition tells me that this clan should be involved in a monstrous cause and effect. I'd better not get involved with them. Otherwise, no matter if I'm their enemy or friend, I'm bound to get into trouble. Monstrous cause and effect? Lin Sun was lost in thought. Next, Old Toad began to count the trophies he had plundered from the sacred son of the Water Ape race with a happy face, like a miser. Lin Sun's figure flashed, and he entered the dreamland created by the four image dragon pillars. In the dreamland, the Saintess Linlang was driving the blood-red bronze bell with all her strength, trying to break the dreamland. Unfortunately, it was doomed to be in vain. When Lin Sun appeared, he didn't hesitate at all. He attacked with all his strength and began to suppress the opponent. He didn't just have a good impression of this woman, he simply hated her to the extreme. As early as in the sacred island of 5 elements, they had become enemies because of a Taoist scripture of the sage. Then, during these days of escape, he almost died in the hands of this woman several times. Now, even Zhao Jingxian and Old Toad were seriously injured because of this woman. How could Lin Sun not hate her? In the dreamland, the Saintess Linlong's extremely resentful scream rang out. At this moment she was really shocked and angry, but also had a kind of unspeakable fear. She even tried to negotiate with Lin Sun several times. But Lin Sun didn't make a sound from beginning to end. His attacks were fierce and merciless. In the end, the Saintess Linlang was killed on the spot, and her head was chopped off. But what made Lin Sun helpless was that the bone talisman of Linlong's life soul was activated, wrapped up a wisp of her soul, and moved away. Even the 4 image dragon pillars couldn't stop it. What surprised Lin Sun even more was that the blood-red bronze bell couldn't be suppressed or taken away. As if it had a spirit, it disappeared into the void. This was the power of the ancestral weapon, mysterious and unpredictable, which made Lin Sun helpless. But fortunately, the Saintess Linlong's body had been destroyed, and the other treasures she carried were destined to be unable to be moved away. Soon, Lin Sun found a storage ring, which was shining with treasures. There were all kinds of spiritual herbs and spiritual materials piled up like a hill, all of which could be regarded as treasures of inestimable value, dazzling Lin Sun. Even Lin Sun couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Sure enough, the treasures on the bodies of these saints were the most abundant. Finally, Lin Sun's eyes fell on an incomplete Taoist scripture. It was golden and shining, clear and clean, and filled with the mysterious aura of a saint. Impressively, it was another part of the Taoist scripture of the saint. This was undoubtedly the biggest gain this time. When he had the chance to snatch the other incomplete Taoist scripture from the little child of the sacred island of 5 elements, he would be able to peek into the real mystery hidden in this scripture. When Lin Sun put away the 4 image dragon pillars and walked out of the dreamland, he saw Old Toad squatting on the ground, grinning from ear to ear. Obviously, the treasures left by the Saint of the Water Ape tribe were also a great harvest for Old Toad. "You are so seriously injured, and you still have the mood to think about treasures?" Lin Sun couldn't help asking. But Old Toad said righteously, "As a practitioner, we can be beheaded and bleed, but we can't lose treasures." Saying this, he let out a cry and grimaced in pain. It turned out that the injuries on his body were acting up, and he couldn't bear it. Lin Sun almost rolled his eyes. When he was plundering the treasures just now, this guy didn't seem to be unable to bear it, but now he was seriously injured and wailing. It could be seen how greedy this guy was. For the sake of treasures, he even forgot his injuries. Lin Sun couldn't help but admire this persistent and selfless spirit of greed. In the end, Lin Sun threw Old Toad into the wordless pagoda to recuperate, and his figure flashed, deciding to leave this area. This experience was simply thrilling. If Lin Sun hadn't finally obtained the art of cutting Tao, which allowed him to recover, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Although he had defeated Yu Shaosheng, Lin Lang and the others in the end, Zhao Jingxian and Old Toad had been seriously injured and had to concentrate on healing their injuries. It would be difficult for them to recover in a short period of time. Thinking of everything that had happened these days, Lin Sun's heart was filled with an indescribable hatred. He had just passed the Thunder Tribulation and was hunted down by the strong cultivators from various clans, almost dying several times. Now that he had recovered, it was time to settle the score. At this moment, some of the nearby areas were in an uproar. Strong cultivators from various clans came one after another to kill Lin Sun and seize the good fortune. For the past half a month, whether in the Demon Saint's secret realm or outside the Ultimate, it was boiling. Everyone's eyes were locked on this operation to kill Lin Sun. This human teenager is simply a monster. For the past half a month, he was obviously on the verge of collapse from being hunted, but he still managed to escape without being killed. He definitely can't hold on any longer. If there are no accidents, he will definitely die in the next few days. Didn't you see that many saints have already rushed ahead to take action? Lin Sun had survived 6 peerless Thunder Tribulations, and he had killed many strong cultivators along the way. This made the cultivators of all clans feel frightened and terrified, so no matter who it was, they didn't want him to continue living. If such a monster rose, it would be a disaster. In the future, no one would be able to stop him from advancing to the supreme way. Let's go. Success or failure will be decided in the next few days. Let's kill him together. The strong cultivators of all clans were full of murderous intent as they tracked Lin Sun's escape. They chased him all the way and were about to reach the swamp. "We almost killed him last time. This time, we can't let him escape again. How dare he kill a clansman of the Sea Spirit clan? He must pay with his life," a young man with blue eyes in a feather robe said coldly. He was the saint of the Sea Spirit clan. "Haha, last time we joined forces, but in the end we still let him escape. I have to say, this human teenager is indeed a character." A man in a silver battle robe next to him laughed coldly. He was also a saint from the Silver Light clan. As they talked, they quickened their pace as they chased after Lin Sun. Now, everyone knew that the human teenager was seriously injured and on the verge of death. Even a ferocious beast could kill him, so it was the best time to kill him. In the distance, there were still many strong cultivators of different clans on the move. In their eyes, Lin Sun was already a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, and there was nothing to worry about. What they really needed to worry about was who could snatch away Lin Sun's opportunity first. Therefore, no matter who it was, they were all moving quickly without slacking off. But no one knew that Lin Sun, who in their eyes could only wait for death, had already become different from before. Chapter 586. In the boundless forest, Yu Shaoxing was sprinting. He'd reformed his body, but because his injuries were too severe, his face was ghastly pale. Damned little human bastard, one day, I'll take revenge with my own hands. Yu Shaoxing gritted his teeth. Ever since he'd started cultivating, he'd never suffered such a loss. When Lin Sun's spirit arrow pierced through his body, he'd almost thought he was going to lose his life. Even now, he still had lingering fear when he thought about it, and he hated Lin Sun even more. Suddenly, Yu Shaoxing noticed that there were many figures in the mountains far away. They were obviously not from the same force, but from different clans. Yu Shaoxing quickly realized that these were the forces that were chasing after Lin Sun. This made his heart shake, and a cold smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. He didn't warn them, but followed them quietly. These fellows are really stupid. If they knew that the human youth has already recovered and has become extremely powerful, I wonder what they would think. A twisted resentment arose in Yu Shaoxing's heart. My dragon whale clan was almost completely annihilated by that fellow. It's time for you bastards to have a taste of what's coming. Idiot! Go over there, I just saw that little human bastard appear. Suddenly, a loud shout resounded from afar. It was the Jade Scale Clan saint, and he was pointing the way to some powerhouses. Yu Shaoxing couldn't help but be stunned, and then he understood. This fellow was obviously extremely sinister and malicious. He didn't warn Lin Sun that he'd become stronger, but wanted to make others do his dirty work. This fellow is even more ruthless than me. Yu Shaoxing laughed coldly. He continued moving stealthily, following behind. Not long after, Yu Shaoxing found a few more familiar faces. They were the Devil Elephant Clan Saint, the Dawnwood Clan Saint, and the Water Ape Clan Saint. Each of them had their own ulterior motives, and they didn't mention a word about Lin Sun becoming stronger. They obviously intended to watch coldly from the sidelines and watch the powerhouses of the various clans throw their lives away. Haha, it's getting more and more interesting. Yu Shaoxing laughed coldly. At this moment, a sense of revenge arose in his heart, and he even wished for nothing more than for Lin Sun to show off his might and annihilate all the powerhouses of the other clans. When they were close to the swamp, the scene suddenly became lively. Strong practitioners of various forces showed their traces and rushed to the swamp to find Lin Sun first. There was a great battle here. Quickly go and report. That human youth must be nearby. Many experts were overjoyed. They discovered traces of battle and began to send out signals to summon their clansmen. For a time, this area was covered in streaks that rained down while the glow of treasures fluttered about, and they were like numerous dazzling shooting stars whistling through the sky. The scene was extremely chaotic. This place was destined to fall into chaos. Over there, some sharp-eyed practitioners found Lin Sun's figure and immediately showed their excitement, because it meant a great fortune, and it was very likely to get a real Taoist scripture of the sage. In their eyes, after more than 10 days of hunting, Lin Sun had already run out of energy. Like a tiger with its teeth pulled out, he was no longer a threat and would die at any time. Moreover, there was a large patch of blood in this area. These strong practitioners thought that this was a sign that Lin Sun had lost too much blood and was about to lose his life. Only Yu Shaoxing had a strange expression. Besides feeling depressed, he also felt that it was absurd and ridiculous. Those blood stains did not belong to that human youth. They were obviously the blood of the saints. Soon, a group of strong practitioners quickly separated and sealed off this area to prevent Lin Sun from escaping again. As for the saints of the Sea Spirit clan and the Silver Light clan, they had already rushed up, intending to forcefully intervene in this competition and get a share of the loot. Ha ha ha, kid, let's see where you can run this time. The saint of the Sea Spirit clan laughed immediately. His eyes were very unscrupulous, as if he was staring at prey, full of cruelty and complacency. The others laughed as well. Lin Sun stood there foolishly, obviously not having the strength to escape. This let them know that the time to harvest had come. In addition to sneering, some strong practitioners from different clans were also hateful, because Lin Sun had killed many of their clansmen a few days ago, which made them feel ashamed. Lin Sun was indeed standing there without moving. He wore broken and blood-stained clothes, and his aura was restrained. From the outside, it was impossible to find any clues at all. At this time, looking at some strong practitioners who were constantly rushing over, he was calculating in his heart when to make a move. Immediately, Lin Sun was slightly stunned. He found traces of Yu Shaoxing, the saint of the Jade Unicorn clan, the saint of the Li Mu clan, and others. However, these guys were hiding in the distance, extremely low-key, and did not dare to come close at all. Didn't they mention anything about me? Lin Sun's lips curled into an imperceptible strange curve, and he immediately understood their thoughts. Lin Sun could not help but sigh with emotion. These guys looked decent, but he had never thought that they were so insidious and black-bellied. It seems that you are all ready to die. Lin Sun thought so in his heart, but he said calmly, "That's good too. It saves me the trouble of settling accounts with you one by one." Everyone was stunned. Was this guy crazy? It seemed that he knew that he could not escape this disaster, and had become crazy in his desperation. Otherwise, how could he talk nonsense like this? Humph! It's useless to pretend to be calm. This time, no matter what you say, I won't give you a chance to escape. The saint of the Sea Spirit clan sneered. Hey, this guy is really interesting. Why are you still pretending at this time? Do you really think we don't know that you are about to run out of oil? Many strong practitioners also sneered, their eyes full of mockery and pity. In the distance, Yu Shaoxing's lips twitched fiercely, and he could not help showing some pity in his eyes. These guys were really stupid. You are all here. Why don't you start? Could it be that he's the same as me, waiting for everyone to arrive before starting the battle? Lin Sun looked surprised. His attitude immediately made many people laugh. A man who was about to die dared to despise them like this. It was extremely funny. A group of strong practitioners could not restrain themselves and immediately rushed forward. However, they were stopped by another group of strong practitioners halfway, and a conflict broke out between them. They all wanted to be the first to kill Lin Sun and seize his good fortune. Friends of the Sea Spirit clan, we found this evil creature first. First come, first served, right? The faces of those strong practitioners were gloomy. This boy has enmity with our clan. If you want to kill him, it should be us who do it. The saint of the Sea Spirit clan said unhappily. In an instant, the atmosphere was tense. Both sides confronted each other, and no one gave way. The smell of gunpowder was thick. In their eyes, Lin Sun was like a piece of fat meat that everyone wanted to eat first. They could not allow others to touch it. Yu Shaoxing's expression became more and more strange. He could not bear to watch any longer. Did these idiots really think that human youth was a piece of meat on a chopping board? Lin Sun was also a little stunned, and there was a strange look in his eyes. This scene was seen by many strong practitioners, and they immediately regarded it as a kind of contempt and provocation. What kind of look was that? No matter how they looked at it, it seemed to be pity and ridicule. Lin Sun was not nervous at all, which was too arrogant and presumptuous. Little bastard, don't play dumb. I'll chop you first. A strong practitioner shouted. As he spoke, He stepped into the void, swung a giant axe, and chopped at Lin Sun. Impatient, you are doomed to die a wrong death. Lin Sun sighed softly and waved his sleeve. With a flash of light, the strong practitioner's body exploded in the air before he had time to approach, turning into a rain of blood. What? All the strong practitioners present were shocked. Wasn't this guy at the end of his life? How could he still be so strong? Don't be scared by him. This guy is already an arrow at the end of its flight. He can't hold on any longer. Didn't you see how he behaved when he was chased last time? His body was almost smashed. There is nothing to be afraid of, the Saint of the Sea Spirit Clan reminded coldly. I didn't expect that you could see through it. Lin Sun looked surprised. Damn, why do I feel that this guy also did it on purpose? In the distance, Yu Shaosheng looked at Lin Sun's surprised look and wanted to rush forward and smash his hateful face. It was too insidious. Cut the crap. Hand over your fortune and I'll give you a quick death. The Saint of the Sea Spirit Clan shouted. What quick death? Let's kill him first. Another group of strong practitioners couldn't hold back and began to take action. More and more practitioners came, and time could not be delayed at all. At the same time, the strong practitioners of the Sea Spirit Clan were also unwilling to be outdone. They made a brazen move. The light was boiling, and the secret method shrouded the front. In this case, I'll send you guys to hell first. At this moment, Lin Sun stopped smiling, and suddenly a blazing brilliance rushed out of his body. His aura suddenly became terrifying to the extreme, shocking people. Everyone's heart palpitated and their hair stood on end. This was an instinctive reaction in the face of danger. What's going on? Didn't you say that he was going to die? Is he at the end of his life? A strong practitioner screamed. Boom! Lin Sun was surrounded by dense Tao like a field, releasing a clear halo, sacred and transcendent. Puff! In an instant, all the strong practitioners who rushed over exploded. Their bodies were torn apart, and in the terrible light of Tao, they turned into a rain of blood. They died on the spot before they could even get close to Lin Sun. This kind of peerless sharpness shocked the whole audience. Every strong practitioner was so scared that their scalps were numb, and they couldn't believe it. Even the secret techniques and spirit artifacts that covered the heavens and the earth were completely destroyed, and they transformed into a multicolored rain of light that scattered down in a peerlessly gorgeous manner. In this rain of light, Lin Sun stepped out. His figure was illusory, and he stepped on an ice dragon, with an indescribable disdainful power. Why was this happening? Wasn't he about to die? Many people trembled all over, and their hair stood on end. Their hearts were terrified to the extreme. How could they resist such a peerless divine power? Come on, let's do it together. This guy is not pretending. He has been pretending to be weak all the time. All the strong practitioners roared, and their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Until now, they finally realized that they had been fooled. However, it was too late. Lin Sun's body was blazing. He shuttled through the void and went straight forward. In an instant, a bloody storm was set off. Chapter 587. In an instant, the area was filled with screams. Many strong people had no time to react and were killed on the spot. Their bodies turned into waterfalls of blood and dyed the void red. It was too terrible. He wanted to kill all his enemies by himself. Indeed, no one expected that Lin Sun wasn't deliberately mystifying or putting on airs. He didn't even conceal his intention from the beginning to the end. It was ridiculous that they had always regarded Lin Sun as a piece of meat on the chopping board without any threat. When Lin Sun showed his peerless spirit, they were all stunned, frightened, and angry. Rumble! Lin Sun's fists were powerful and unparalleled. Wherever he passed, there was a rain of blood. He was invincible. For more than 10 days, he had been chased by these guys all the way. He was almost killed several times. Now, Lin Sun had completely recovered and his combat power was at the top of the same realm. He could disdain all enemies. Of course, he wouldn't bear it anymore. He began to counterattack to vent his inner hatred. Kill! The Holy Son of Sea Spirit Clan roared and took out a blue spiritual sword. Like setting off a vast ocean, it rolled back and covered Lin Sun. However, Lin Sun didn't even look at it. His figure flashed and avoided the blow. Then he spread out his figure and chased after the other strong people of Sea Spirit Clan. In just a moment, more than a dozen strong people of Sea Spirit Clan were killed. Their blood dyed the ground red, which was shocking. The Holy Son of Sea Spirit Clan was so angry that he almost went crazy. He attacked again and again, but Lin Sun didn't fight with them at all. Lin Sun flashed like a ghost and killed the Holy Son of Sea Spirit Clan and other clansmen of Sea Spirit Clan. Coward! Do you dare to fight with me? The Holy Son of Sea Spirit Clan roared. Lin Sun didn't pay attention to him at all, as if he didn't take him seriously at all. Later, the remaining strong people of Sea Spirit Clan realized that something was wrong and hid beside the Holy Sun in horror. Then Lin Sun changed his target and went to kill other strong people present. At this moment, Lin Sun was really too strong. He was like a peerless blade, conquering the whole field. No one could bear his edge. For a time, this area was filled with shrill cries, furious roars, and shouts. They were mixed with scarlet red blood and shattered corpses, and they transformed into a horrifying and bloody scene. How was this a battle? This was clearly a massacre. This fellow is simply a demon. Yu Shaoxing, who was hiding far away, felt his heart palpitate as he watched, and drew in a breath of cold air. It wasn't just him. Even the hearts of the Dawnwood Clan's holy daughter, the Jade Unicorn Clan's holy son, the Demonic Elephant Clan's holy son, and the other peerless figures felt as if they'd fallen into an icy pit. They were still thinking whether they should take this opportunity to attack Lin Sun when he was unprepared. But now it would seem like if he did that, then it would be no different than giving his life away. This human youth was too ferocious. Evil creature! Do you only dare to attack the weak? The Sea Spirit Clan's saint was so angry that his eyes were about to spit fire. In just a short period of time, another group of Sea Spirit Clan's powerhouses had been killed. How could he not be angry? What maddened him most was that Lin Sun had been avoiding him from beginning to end and didn't confront them head-on at all, which made him so angry that he almost vomited blood. When had he ever been ignored like this? He obviously didn't put him in his eyes. Coward! 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 You've lost the face of your human clan. No matter how strong a despicable person like you is, you're just a trash who bullies the weak and fears the strong. The Sea Spirit Clan's saint roared sternly. Unfortunately, Lin Sun still paid no attention to him. He fought with all his strength and didn't intend to let any of his enemies go. His figure drifted erratically as he carried out a massacre in this area. In the end, many powerhouses collapsed. They realized that Lin Sun had really risen and wasn't at the end of his rope, but had recovered to his peak combat strength. Coupled with witnessing Lin Sun's bloody and cold slaughter and seeing powerhouses being killed on the spot like chickens and dogs, all of this made their souls almost leave their bodies. They cried out in terror and rushed in all directions, fleeing in all directions, because they were all shocked and scared silly. Lin Sun's power couldn't be stopped at all, so how could they dare to go against him? You're all here. Do you still want to leave? Lin Sun's voice was indifferent and not very loud, but it was filled with a cold and murderous intent, which made the powerhouses in the field even more terrified. Boom! With Lin Sun at the center, divine radiance erupted. It was dazzling like a river of stars and blazing to the extreme, and it was like boundless volcanoes colliding before exploding. The terrifying fluctuation of divine radiance covered the heavens and the earth, and it swept towards the surroundings and enveloped this area. Pooh! Pooh! In an instant, countless powerhouses weren't able to resist in time before they were obliterated by the divine radiance, and they transformed into a pool of flesh and blood that died at various places. Blood flowed into rivers and dyed the heavens and the earth red. The horrifying bloody scene almost caused the distant Yu Shaoxing to be suffocated, and he didn't hesitate at all to flee as well. At the same time, the top figures of the Jade Unicorn clan, Devil Elephant clan, and Darkwood clan had chosen to temporarily avoid the brunt of Lin Sun's attack and fled far away. Going against Lin Sun at this moment was simply no different than courting death. The battlefield was suffused with smoke, and it was a scene of disorder. The strike from before had annihilated a few tens of powerhouses, yet only a few dozen or so remained now. Besides them, the other powerhouses had either fled or were lying in pools of blood. Corpses piled up, and it was like purgatory. This, the expression of the Holy Son of the Sea Spirit clan, changed constantly. He was also shocked and stimulated by the bloody scene in front of him, and he sobered up from his anger. It was also at this moment that he finally realized that the reason why Lin Sun didn't confront him head-on before was not because he was afraid, but because he wanted to seize all the time to kill those powerhouses. Now, why don't you shout? Lin Sun's black eyes looked over from afar, and his gaze was as sharp as lightning, which made the Holy Son of the Sea Spirit clan feel a stabbing pain. Don't be arrogant. You've killed so many powerhouses. Even if you can leave the secret land of monsters alive, so what? The Holy Son of the Sea Spirit clan took a deep breath and said coldly, "Those big shots waiting outside will never let go of you, an executioner whose hands are stained with blood. That's a matter for the future. You don't have to worry about it. What I want to ask is, why don't you shout?" Lin Sun looked calm, but his words were like a knife, which was regarded as a kind of humiliation and contempt by the Holy Son of the Sea Spirit clan. The Holy Son's face was livid, and his chest rose and fell rapidly. He was so angry that his teeth almost broke. "Come on, don't you want to fight with me? There are not many people left now. Let's take some time to have some fun." As Lin Sun said, he swooped forward. But to Lin Sun's surprise, just as he moved, the Holy Son of the Sea Spirit clan fled without looking back. And he even crushed some kind of teleportation talisman, which made him disappear in an instant. Lin Sun couldn't help but be stunned. This guy shouted so fiercely just now, and he thought he would be proud and unyielding. Who would have thought that he would run away before the fight started? The remaining more than a dozen powerhouses on the scene had long been scared to tremble. When they saw the Holy Son of the Sea Spirit clan flee so recklessly, they immediately felt desperate, as if the support in their hearts had suddenly collapsed. Lin Sun didn't show any mercy. He attacked coldly and killed them all. After that, he didn't even spare a glance. His entire body was coiled with brilliant clear radiance as he strode forward with large strides, and he didn't conceal his tracks like he did in the past. After being chased for so long, he was going to launch a counterattack. Run. From that day on, wherever Lin Sun passed, there were sounds of people fleeing for their lives. There was no way to stop Lin Sun's pace. It was too terrible. Like a devil, he walked on mountains of corpses and seas of blood. He was only one person, but he chased the heroes of all clans and made them constantly flee. They deserved to be unlucky. How excited and complacent they were when they chased him all the way. They didn't expect that Lin Sun would turn around and start to chase them. The impermanence of life was reflected incisively and vividly at this time. All the powerhouses were defeated and fled, leaving behind corpses one after another. Usually, they looked down on others with a very high attitude, but now they were like stray dogs in a panic. Lin Sun seemed very ruthless. He was calm and unparalleled along the way. Ice Drake steps gave him unparalleled speed. Almost all the powerhouses who were targeted by him could not survive. The news spread very fast. It didn't take long for the whole Demon Saint Secret Land to be shocked. When they learned all this, all the powerhouses were shocked. Where did this young devil come from? How could he be so terrible? They were in the same realm, but he was like a king, sweeping away all his opponents with unparalleled majesty. There was no way to defeat him at all. Unless there was someone else who had set foot on the extreme way, no one could stop Lin Sun's pace. Let's go. Still chasing after him? Don't you know how terrifying that young man is? That guy is a devil, invincible. If he continues to grow like this, who can balance him in the future? If he sets foot on the divine path, I'm afraid the whole world will tremble. All the powerhouses of all clans were running for their lives. They had no choice. Seeing this, some practitioners who didn't know what was going on were all stunned. Especially when they learned of Lin Sun's bloody record along the way, they were so shocked that they turned around and fled, not daring to stay at all. Although the Demon Saint's secret land was terrible, as long as they were careful, they could avoid many forbidden dangers. But if they met this young man, they would absolutely be courting death. It's impossible. So many powerhouses were dispatched, but they couldn't defeat him alone? Some people didn't believe it. They didn't believe it. But no one went to explain anything. They were all busy running for their lives. Who had the mood to argue? Did they want to live or not? Finally, when he killed his way out of the mountains, Lin Sun stopped. Because the other areas were unknown and contained unpredictable dangers, he didn't dare to act rashly. He wouldn't forget the golden-winged rock and the unparalleled serpent he had seen in the desert. They were both terrifying existences in the Demon Saint's secret land. This time, the powerhouses of all clans suffered heavy losses. No one knew how many of them were killed. On the other hand, the experts that escaped felt fortunate, as if they'd survived a calamity. Being swept by a human youth was simply like a nightmare, and it left too many shadows in their hearts. At the same time, outside the ultimate land, there was a monstrous storm. Chapter 588. The mountains reeked of blood. Broken corpses could be seen everywhere. The ground was dyed red with blood. From time to time, fierce beasts would be attracted and devour the corpses mercilessly. How many overmatches had died in this battle? It was impossible to count. But Lin Sun's unstoppable killing was like a nightmare that many overmatches would never forget for the rest of their lives. Oh no, that young man didn't die. He's slaughtering the overmatches of all clans. It's terrible. He's like a devil. His hands are stained with blood. He can't be defeated. Outside the ultimate, there were angry and panicked cries on the magnificent sea surface. For a moment, all the clans waiting near the ultimate were shocked. They almost couldn't believe their eyes. A young man who survived the thunder retribution had been chased all the way and was about to die. How could the result be reversed? What had happened to him that allowed him to defeat all the overmatches and counterattack all the way? Those children of my clan are all dead? Immediately, a big shot roared fiercely. He was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood and almost fainted. This was Tiansha Granny of the Bloody Lion clan. All the overmatches of the Bloody Lion clan who entered the secret land of Demon had been annihilated. Only Linlang, the Saintess, was left. Who would have thought that even Saint Linlang would meet with a calamity this time? Only a strand of her divine soul was teleported back. Even the fortune she obtained from the 5 elements sacred island was lost. How could the Tiansha Granny not be furious? Damn it! This little bastard of the human clan is too arrogant. No matter who he is, we can't let him leave alive. Another ancestor-level figure roared, almost going mad. Their clan situation was practically no different from the Blood Lion clans, and they were almost completely wiped out. Ah, damn it! I can't wait to kill my way into the secret land of Demon and kill that heartless young man of the human clan. Damn it! When did our clan suffer such humiliation? It's unforgivable that we were almost annihilated by a young man of the human clan. In the field, there were roars and roars that shook the world. All the clans looked at each other in horror and confusion. Not only was a ferocious human youth not killed, He single-handedly swept through the crowd and set off an endless rain of blood. As soon as this news spread, it simply angered the gods and humans alike, and it caused the powers of the various clans to be unable to remain calm and were in an uproar. Who would dare to believe it? He had just advanced to the Grotto Heaven realm, yet he was already so terrifying and heaven-defying. Who would dare to believe this? But this news was absolutely true. Because on that day, the soul altars built by all clans were running almost all the time, moving out batch after batch of souls, all of which were the core figures of various clans killed by Lin Sun alone. Especially when Saintess Linlang appeared, it caused an uproar in the audience. This meant that Lin Sun's current combat effectiveness had the power to suppress and kill saints. This sea region could no longer calm down. The great figures were all stamping with rage, and there were a few great figures who were endlessly bewildered. They began to make speculations. It was a complete mess, all of them shocked by this bloody storm. This young man survived the 6 peerless thunder tribulations, which can be said to be rare since ancient times. Now, he can launch a desperate counterattack and sweep away all the heroes when he is seriously injured and dying. I'm afraid he has set foot on the legendary road of cultivation. There was an old ancestor who speculated so. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense at all. Is it the most powerful road in the ancient legend? It's impossible. This road is against the heaven and Tao. I don't know how many peerless talents died on this road. How could a young man of the human clan achieve this? Many great figures didn't believe it. Even if it is the road to the top, he has just advanced to the Grotto Heaven realm, and it is impossible for him to have such a strong combat effectiveness. There must be something strange about it. Some old antiques were keenly aware of the abnormality. The young man of the human clan was so ferocious that he seemed to ignore the barrier of realms. Some old strong practitioners in the Grotto Heaven realm were killed by him, which simply broke the common understanding since ancient times. It seemed too abnormal. No matter what Tao he cultivates, such a scourge that angers both humans and gods must be eliminated. This was the voice of many great figures. The strong practitioners of their clans had suffered heavy losses, which was a great shame and a deep hatred. How could they tolerate Lin Sun to continue to live? Only Elder Gao Yang seemed to be very silent and didn't say a word from beginning to end. This time, only the descendants of the Holy Land of Spirit Treasure and some retainers of the human clan entered the secret realm of Demon Saint. This made Elder Gao Yang very sure that the young man of the human clan, who caused great indignation and resentment, must be from his side. He even suspected that the young man of the human clan was the retainer named Lin Xian. However, he didn't dare to believe it, because he was also a little confused. The young man's combat effectiveness was too ferocious and against the natural order. If he was really Lin Xian, it would be incredible. After all, Lin Xian was not a practitioner of the ancient Desolation territory. He just came from the Xiao Empire, a young man who grew up in the barren land of the mortal world. How could such a young man have such a talent and foundation? Even, it was very likely that he had set foot on the most powerful and peerless cultivation path. Soon, Elder Gao Yang couldn't think anymore, because many great figures were glaring at him angrily. They were all threatening and asking about the background of the young man of the human clan. They even openly expressed that they would not let the young man leave the soul oblivion sea alive. This gave Elder Gao Yang a headache, but he had a strange sense of pride in his heart. Anyway, the young man was from the human clan. It was a great thing that he could defeat the strong practitioners of other clans by himself. If this news spread to the ancient Desolation territory, it would even make the big forces of the human clan applaud and be proud of him. After all, the ancient Desolation territory was a vast world where tens of thousands of clans fought for supremacy. Although the human clan was strong, it was only ordinary among the tens of thousands of clans. There was still a big gap between them and some clans with horrible backgrounds. Fortunately, the demon saint's secret land won't disappear for some time. I just hope that the young man keeps a low profile and doesn't make such a scene again. Otherwise, I'm afraid that even the name of the Holy Land of Spirit Treasure can't protect him." Elder Gao Yang murmured in his heart, with a complicated look on his face. The demon saint's secret land. Lin Sun stopped in front of the blood-stained mountain and didn't continue to chase. On the one hand, it was because he had consumed too much of his physical strength at the moment, and on the other hand, he had a deep fear of other areas. This was the demon saint's secret land, full of unknown and dangers. In contrast, this blood-stained mountain was relatively safe, but it was hard to say for other areas. Finally, Lin Sun turned around and returned to the mountain. He had just broken through, and he had just resolved the chain of heaven's punishment. His top priority was to practice hard to refine and consolidate his cultivation. At the same time, he also needed to further think about his own path. After all, he had encountered too many accidents and setbacks, and experienced several life-and-death situations. He must calm down and explore his own path. Swish! In the messy mountain, Lin Sun's figure flickered, looking for a safe place for quiet cultivation. However, just a moment later, Lin Sun suddenly stopped in front of a collapsed mountain. His black eyes, like cold lightning, suddenly cut through the void and glanced into the distance. In that instant just now, he clearly sensed a wisp of faintly discernible killing intent, but when he carefully probed it, he came up empty-handed. Lin Sun couldn't help but frown. Was it an illusion? Without thinking too much, he continued to move forward. After half an hour, he stopped in front of a clear lake. The lake was vast, enshrouded in milky white mist and steaming water. When Lin Sun arrived here, he jumped into the lake and began to wash the blood stains on his body. In the previous battle, he was bathed in blood and stained with too many enemies' blood. Whoosh! Soaking in the cold lake, Lin Sun felt much relaxed, as if the killing and bloody aura all over his body had been washed away, and his heart was calm and ethereal. Before long, he walked out of the lake, put on a set of clean clothes, tore off a weed, twisted it into a straw rope, and tied his black hair behind his head at will. At this moment, he was dressed in a moon-white robe, with a handsome face and clear and deep black eyes. Standing in front of the misty lake, he exuded a transcendent, ethereal, and unearthly aura. Without looking carefully, no one could associate him with the ferocious teenager who set off a bloody storm. Before long, Lin Sun caught 2 fat, golden-whiskered fish from the lake, set up a bonfire and began to roast them. The roast fish was soon cooked, giving off a tempting fragrance. Lin Sun looked at the lake in the distance while smacking his mouth and eating the golden and tender fish. He was indescribably comfortable, like a traveler who was having a picnic. When dusk fell, Lin Sun stood up and stretched himself comfortably. It seems that the assassin really left. Lin Sun thought for a while and was ready to leave. Whoosh! Just as this thought came to his mind, a cold light flashed silently in the void and suddenly stabbed Lin Sun's head from behind at an incredible speed. This was a touch of sword intent. It appeared suddenly, silently, and incredibly fast. If it were other practitioners, they might not be able to notice it at all and have no time to react at all. Because this touch of sword intent was really amazing and rare. It was accurate, clean, direct, sharp, and terrible to the extreme. However, its aura had been completely restrained. As a result, it seemed to be completely silent, like the shadow of death that had inadvertently descended and shrouded them. Puff! Lin Sun's head was directly pierced, but strangely, his figure disappeared in an instant like a bubble. It was just an afterimage. The reason was that Lin Sun's movement was so fast that he had dodged the sword intent before it hit him. Oh no! Suddenly, a cry of surprise rang out in the distance. At the same time, Lin Sun appeared and punched the void fiercely. Chapter 589. Sorry, I made a mistake in the last chapter. Grandma Tiancha was the ancestor of the Dragon Whale clan. The original text should be replaced with the ancestor of the Blood Lion clan. The void collapsed with a punch. With Lin Sun's current fighting capacity, he could kill ordinary Tao Insight Realm cultivators with a casual punch, let alone at this moment with all his strength. The void was smashed like a piece of paper. The chaotic and violent airflow raged, which was a terrifying scene. Whoosh! However, in the place where the void was broken, a vague figure had already rushed out and narrowly avoided this fatal blow. But even so, he was still hit by the fist force. He staggered and almost fell into the void. At this time, Lin Sun finally saw his opponent clearly. It was an assassin covered in a black fighting suit. He was thin and slender, and his appearance could not be seen clearly. He was surrounded by an obscure breath that could block all perception and investigation. From a distance, he seemed to be just a shadow, extremely vague. "I know you. Last time on the treasure ship, you assassinated me. Unfortunately, you failed at that time." Lin Sun looked calm, but his black eyes were full of cold light. He did remember the breath of the assassin. Last time, he was almost killed by the assassin. This was an unforgettable memory. How could Lin Sun dare to forget it? "Tell me, who exactly are you? Although Su Xingfeng hates me among the successors of the spiritual treasure Holy Land, there's no need for him to hide and deal with me." Lin Sun's eyes flashed with cold lightning, and he firmly locked on the assassin. "Or do you want me to capture you and reveal your true face?" As he spoke, his body was surging with blazing divine light. Tao runes circulated, and his momentum rose to the extreme. As long as the assassin dared to show the slightest intention of escaping, he would attack him with all his strength. "Give me the Taoist scripture of the sage or the pagoda made of the divine iron of creation. Maybe I can give you a satisfactory answer." The black-clothed man's voice was sharp and dry, which was obviously a disguise. Lin Sun immediately understood, and his black eyes surged with cold light. "The reason why you attacked me on the treasure ship was probably for the pagoda in my hand." "Yes." The black-clothed man looked very calm and unscrupulous. It seemed that he was not afraid of letting Lin Sun know his intention at all. "Are you stalling for time?" Lin Sun suddenly asked. "Aren't you the same?" the man in black asked. Lin Sun suddenly smiled and stepped forward. With a clang, the broken sword swept out and Lin Sun attacked with RFS. Now, Lin Sun understood that the three unique skills of Tianyuan saber play had their own mysteries, and there was no difference in strength between them. For example, reaching for the stars paid attention to the element of surprise and shock. Once hit, one would suffer a disaster. On the other hand, the moonclasp style was a type of divine and vast energy that transcended into nothingness. So long as one came into contact with it, it would produce a type of terrifying lethality that seemed like purification. As for the burning sun style, it was very simple. It was tyrannical and destructive. It was like the destructive power released by the burning of the sun. It was an extremely tyrannical killing power. At this moment, Lin Sun used RFS. Needless to say, he wanted to kill his opponent by surprise and shake his mind so that he couldn't escape. Boom! In an instant, it was like a group of stars had fallen and eternal night had descended. It was inconceivably swift, and it seemed like a nightmare had suddenly assaulted them. However, the strange thing was that the figures of the men in black suddenly turned into hundreds and thousands of them, densely packed like black lightning. Some of them took the initiative to attack Lin Sun, and some fled in all directions. Looking from a distance, the figures of the men in black were everywhere, which was a terrifying scene. Boom! The earth-shattering destructive power swept across, and those men in black who rushed up were annihilated almost instantly. Some of them avoided the attack and continued to attack Lin Sun. The most bizarre thing was that some of the men in black had already fled to the distance. The scene suddenly became extremely chaotic. Originally, there was only one enemy, but now there were thousands of them. How could he fight? Thousands of bodies. What secret method was this? Lin Sun was shocked. It was the first time for him to see such an amazing secret method. It was impossible to tell which one was the real man in black just from the appearance. As the saying goes, true and false, illusory and illusory, it was so mysterious and unpredictable that it could deceive the world. The world roared. Lin Sun killed with all his strength. The dazzling saber light swept across with starlight, and groups of men in black were easily killed and turned into light rain and disappeared. It turns out that these doppelgangers are illusory and don't have the same fighting capacity as his real body. Lin Sun felt relaxed and spread his spiritual power to cover the whole field. He carefully perceived and identified them, but the final result shocked him. Whether it was the doppelgangers or the real body, it was impossible to distinguish the real from the fake just from the breath. Lin Xian, the next time we meet, it will be your death. The sharp and dry voice of the man in black echoed between heaven and earth, as if it was made by thousands of people, and it was impossible to determine the real source. Lin Sun's eyebrows became gloomy. Until he killed all the men in black in the field, he found that these were all doppelgangers, and his real body had already escaped. What kind of secret method is this? How can it be so strange and wonderful? Lin Sun frowned and felt a little unwilling. The men in black had assassinated him twice and escaped safely both times. The most difficult thing was that the man also mastered a secret method that could make thousands of doppelgangers, so it was almost difficult to kill him, unless one could see through his real body at a glance. All this also sounded the alarm for Lin Sun. He realized that there were countless geniuses in the world, and there were also countless unimaginable mysterious cultivation methods. He must not take it lightly. Whoosh! Soon, Lin Sun got rid of the distracting thoughts and looked to the other side, with an intriguing smile on his lip. You two have been watching for so long. It's time to show up, isn't it? Lin Sun said softly. There was a low and ordinary hill, shrouded in thick white mist, without any special breath fluctuations. But as early as after being assassinated by the men in black, Lin Sun was keenly aware that there were two figures hiding in the hill. If it were in the past, Lin Sun would definitely not be able to detect them, because the two figures were covered by a ray of treasure light, covering all their breaths. The strange thing was that the treasure light seemed to be integrated with the heaven and earth, turning into the most common breath of heaven and earth, which was difficult to be detected at all. But now Lin Sun was different. After reaching Tao Insight Realm, his spiritual power had also transformed, and he had begun to practice the second realm of meditating magic, changing moon. A divine moon hung in his sea of consciousness and emitted great light. It was like he was ascending a tower, and it caused the perception of his soul to undergo a qualitative transformation, allowing him to detect fine details that he couldn't detect in the past. It was precisely because of this that when he noticed the existence of those two figures, he very naturally thought that they were in cahoots with the black-clothed man. If not, Lin Sun would not have delayed at all just now, and directly went to kill the men in black without talking nonsense and delay. At this moment, the men in black had already fled, but the two figures didn't move for a long time, and they didn't intend to escape, which made Lin Sun feel a little strange, and he realized that there seemed to be some omissions in his previous speculation. I didn't expect that you, Lin Xian, are a top figure who hides his strength. What surprises me most is that a figure like you grew up in the mortal world, which is really unimaginable. With a sigh, a child in colorful clothes walked out from the low hill. He wore a bright silver necklace, and his expression was innocent and adorable. It was Wen Xiang, the successor of the Holy Land of Spiritual Treasure. Beside him, there was an extremely handsome young man in a red robe and a white jade belt around his waist. With his hands behind his back, he had a cold and proud bearing, and a pair of pupils were surrounded by blazing flames. He was Su Xingfeng. So it's you too. Lin Sun was stunned, and then he said with a faint smile, Let me guess, are you here for the pagoda or the so-called Tao scriptures of the sage? On the treasure ship, Lin Sun might be afraid of these two people because of Elder Gao Yang, but now there was no need to worry about them. You're wrong. We come from the same camp, and you're a friend of senior sister Jing Xian. How could we harm you? When Xiang shouted loudly, as if he was wronged. Oh, it seems that I have gauged the heart of a gentleman with my own mean measure? Lin Sun looked indifferent. Not really. We also heard that a teenager of the human clan was being chased, so we immediately came to help. But we didn't expect that the teenager was you. What's more, we didn't expect that you could defeat the overmatches of the other clans. When Xiang said with a smile, and his face was full of amazement, if we had known that you were so powerful, we would not have treated you as a retainer. Lin Sun would not treat this guy as a little kid. When Xiang seemed young, but he cultivated in the form of a boy because he had cultivated a secret method called Yang blood refining method. In fact, he was a genius who had cultivated for many years. When it came to scheming and wisdom, he was not inferior to those old foxes at all. So that's how it is. Then I thank the two of you for your kindness. Lin Sun was calm and didn't deliberately expose them. After all, he entered the secret realm of Demon Saint in the name of Holy Land of Spiritual Treasure. In addition, he had a relationship with Zhao Jingxian. If it was not necessary, Lin Sun would not completely fall out with them. By the way, I wonder who the black-clothed man was? Lin Sun suddenly asked. I don't know. When Xiang shook his head quickly, and his immature face was full of confusion. Lin Sun smiled, showing his snow-white teeth. In that case, I'll leave first. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure flashed and floated away. He left without any hesitation. This guy should have guessed something. When Xiang murmured, with a touch of coldness in his eyes. From the beginning to the end, Su Xingfeng didn't speak. He was cold and indifferent. Seeing Lin Sun's figure disappear, he said, Just now, I wanted to fight,